officers are present, all the court members are present, and all the legal notices have been duly posted, and the court is duly called. And my voice is going out, so Mr. Price taking over this one. Is there a motion to adjourn court for the November 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Is there a motion to open court for the December?
So moved.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Please open court.
All rise. The Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the December 2012 term. The Honorable Judge Jenkins presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
And our invocation today will be given by a guest of Commissioner Receivers.
Thank you, Judge, colleagues, members of the audience. Our pastor today that is going to give us an invocation is Pastor Robert Acosta. He's the pastor for our Harvest Temple Church in Grand Prairie. Pastor, would you please come forward? Pastor Acosta has worked as a pastor for the last 23 years. He has a bachelor in engineering, which he got in 1995. And he served in Lices Naval Station in Argentina and graduated in 1983. He and his wife Susana have been married for 23 years and make their home in Dallas. They have 4 daughters. Pastor Acosta, muchísimas gracias. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me. I love, bless the people in general. In this session is very special. In this day it's very special because the Sergeant Kennedy Regents, he died, and we pray for his family too. Okay. And I pray in Spanish because I'm more free and my brother keeps us safe from it. Okay. Padre, en el nombre de Jesús,
Lord, in this day,
quiero darte muchas gracias
I want to say thank you
por tu gran amor,
for all the love you give us,
porque siempre estás con nosotros.
because you're always here with us.
Señor, gracias por tu cuidado para esta nación.
Thank you, God, for these days that you give us
En toda esta nación, Señor.
and all this nation.
Queremos tu bendición.
We want you blessed.
Pero bendice ahora esta sesión, Dios.
But please bless this section.
Bendice, Señor, a la familia del sargento Kennedy.
Bless Kennedy's family.
Te pedimos en el nombre de Jesús.
We ask in your name, Jesus.
Extiende tu mano, Dios,
Extend your hand,
para que reciban sabiduría,
that way they can be blessed,
fortaleza y consuelo.
and that way they can have we can be blessed, this family and this section.
En el nombre de Jesús.
In your name, Jesus.
Padre, bendice a todos los que están hoy aquí. Te ruego en el nombre de Jesús que la paz sobrenatural tuya descienda, Padre. Trae dirección, trae sabiduría, trae unción del cielo, Señor. Señor, que esta nación siga fortaleciéndose en ti, en tus juicios y en tu dirección. Los bendecimos, Señor. Creemos en ti. Creemos que tú estás aquí, Señor, y que tu paz que sobrepasa todo entendimiento llene este lugar, Dios. Y cada decisión que se va a tomar, lo ponemos todo en tus manos, en el nombre precioso y maravilloso de Jesús. Gracias, Señor. Amén. Gracias.
And I know the sheriff's department was here last night, and what Pastor Austin was speaking of is that you probably already know, last night, one deputy who was in charge, Sergeant Penny, was in charge of fleet of the sheriff's department with his 15-year-old daughter, on Cali, teaching them to drive, and met fatality. The daughter's okay, but he didn't make it, so our condolences to the sheriff's department. The next part of our court resolution. And I see we have a few seats. If there's anyone who's sitting, I think people come for resolutions sometimes and seats are available in the resolutions included. But if those of you who are sitting, if
there's a seat in the middle there. If y'all wouldn't mind scooting over and making room for the folks that are standing, we've got quite a large group of folks that are standing. And then the groups that are standing, we can kind of go by either age or any mobility challenge or leg or back pains, take their seats. We'll kind of go on honor system on that. Our first resolution today is from Commissioner Price.
Judge, Commissioners, this morning we're very pleased to have Margaret Castilla. Castilla, will you come with your delegation? There's a delegation with her, and we'll ask her to come forward, please. Well, we are glad to see you one time. Whereas the Dallas County Commissioners Court takes special notice where an individual has given long and faithful service to Dallas County, and whereas Margaret Castilla was born in Dallas, Texas, a graduate of W.H. Adamson High School, and whereas Margaret began her Dallas County career on August 10, 2000 in the Dallas County Criminal Courts Division, where she currently serves. Taking pride in her work, Margaret has not only been recognized for her punctuality, but has also received multiple letters of appreciation from attorneys as well as the parents of defendants. And whereas Margaret has been married for over 41 blissful years to her dedicated husband, Armando, and they have 4 loving children, Armando Jr., Augustine, Luis, and Ernesto. And whereas Margaret, a lover of sports, is a certified World Cup soccer volunteer, enjoys coaching soccer and watching football, especially the Dallas Cowboys. She eagerly looks forward to traveling, socializing, and spending more time with her family. And whereas Margaret has served Dallas County continuously and diligently for 12 years, now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court is hereby recognized and extends sincere appreciation to Margaret Castilla for 12 years of faithful service, and further expresses best wishes on this her retirement. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries
Thank
unanimously.
you.
Ms. Castilla,
Thank you.
any words? And you pull that microphone.
No, just thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And go Cowboys. We still have some hope.
Yeah, okay. That's it, Dave?
As an attorney, whether you're a prosecutor or defense attorney, and Commissioner, firsthand, as far as the clerks, Mr. Moore's clerks, people really realize what they do. They are the front line of service to the citizens of Dallas County. And not only do they serve the citizens of Dallas County, they make sure that whether you're a young prosecutor or an old prosecutor, that we get it right. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to make sure that we do. We get it right for the citizens that we serve, whether again we're talking about victims or you're talking about the citizens accused. And I want to commend you for all the hard work that you've done for the citizens of Dallas County. And I'm a witness because I know as a young prosecutor, you were one of my first clerks. And again, I want to thank the Commissioner's Court for recognizing our front line.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Thank you for the delegation back up there. Okay, Jacqueline Lewis. This village running teams. Again, whereas the Dallas County Commissioners Court takes special notice when an individual has given long and faithful service, and whereas Jacqueline Lewis was born in Kingsville, Texas, a graduate of A&M High School, and attended college at Texas A&M Kingsville. And whereas Jacqueline began her Dallas County career on September 16, 1982 in the Dallas County Criminal Courts Division. Currently, she serves as the Deputy Clerk in County Criminal Court number 6. And whereas Jacqueline, the wife of the late F.L. Lewis, U.S. Navy retired, is a mother of two, a lovely daughter, Natasha, who has blessed her with one grandchild, Jade Zara, that she deeply adores, and a son, Felton, who had a miraculous recovery after receiving a kidney transplant, and she is thrilled to have him by her side. And whereas Jacqueline, a woman of strong faith, volunteers with multiple organizations, generously gives her times to others, and is passionately dedicated to helping those in need. She enjoys baking, taking culinary classes, and is looking forward to traveling to visit relatives throughout Texas, Oklahoma, California, Connecticut, and New Jersey. And with God by her side, Jacqueline has served Dallas County continuously and diligently, with God by her side for 30 years. That's what it takes in Dallas County. Now therefore, be it resolved that Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize and extend sincere appreciation to Jacqueline Lewis for 30 years of faithful service and expresses best wishes to him on this retirement.
Second.
All those in favor?
Ms. Lewis?
I just want to say I give God the glory, and I always put him first, and I did ask him to say you. But now I can start my other career.
Another career?
Yes.
What's that other career?
I'm going to be baking, I'm doing my missionary, and whatever God has me to do.
Okay. Good luck to you again. Thank you. Judge, the next resolution, Judge, is for Susan Witt. Again, this court takes special pride when an individual is given long and faithful service to this county. Where Susan Witt was born in Monroe, Louisiana. I think is that, what parish is that? Ouachita. Okay, I knew I was going to mess it up. Okay, Ouachita. Later, it's spelled Q-U-A. Okay. Later moved into Dallas, Texas, a graduate of Sunset High School. And whereas Susan began her career on September 5th, 1995, in Dallas County Criminal Courts Division as a deputy clerk. With hard work, she's earned roles with increasing responsibility throughout Dallas County Criminal Courts and currently serves as a quality assurance specialist for Dallas County Clerk's Office. And whereas Susan takes great pride in her family and is blessed to be married to her best friend, David, and cherishes their two children, a beautiful, thoughtful daughter, Andrea, and a handsome, loving son, James. And whereas Susan is an avid reader, a lover of books and bookstores, she enjoys attending sci-fi conventions, comic cons with her family, and Susan and her husband are compassionate animal lovers.
Yes.
Contributes to the ASPCA and the Dallas Animal Shelter, and would like to become more involved when she retires.
Hey, that's what you need to call.
Yeah. I left it open for you. Susan is also looking forward to drawing that's painting, not painting. Okay, painting, being with the family, and spending time with her grandchildren. And for the past 17 years, Susan Witt has continuously and diligently served Dallas County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court hereby recognize and extend sincere appreciation to Susan Witt for 17 years of faithful service and further expresses best wishes on her retirement. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Swear.
I've got something just short to say. I was born in 1947. I've worked for 47 years. And then I was thinking a couple of days ago, I worked 30 years before I came to the county. And I worked for the county 17 years. So that means I was 47 when I came to work for the county.
Sound like some lotto numbers.
And I'm very glad that you worked for the council. I'm thankful that.
We're thankful that all three of you are here. I think what we recognize is that we are close to 100 years worth of experience walking out that door. And we talk about that in our sheriff's meeting every Monday morning as we talk about retirement. We understand the learning curve. We understand what it costs us to talk about how we bring new people into the fold. When you get that kind of experience walking out the door, we're impacted. And Mr. Warren, challenge on you and everybody who's left. I'm trying to pick up the slack. I'm sure you've got something to say. I thought for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Court. I'd just like to thank you for giving this presentation of this resolution for all three, Susie, Margaret, and Jacqueline. The expectations that I set for my office, they exceeded 150%. The work ethic, the mentoring those who come in behind them, so we talk about succession, you have this type of knowledge in the office, it's commendable. They have been an example for everyone. I think in my criminal division, I have 78 employees. They've been an example for everyone. And I don't have words just to express my appreciation for the work that they've done, the commitment to doing a good job, and the strong work ethic that they've had. But I thank them for their service, and I thank this court for this resolution.
We don't want you to forget us.
Roll valve.
Are we trying to say?
Skills teacher.
Okay, got it.
Y'all can Photoshop out the BU on the front.
That'd be 75, all they both bound.
You know, right?
We can always put that.
Oh. She shouts and transforms. And the last resolution, Judge Commissioners, that I have is the one from Mayor Sherman. I saw you earlier. Where are you? And the new mayor for DeSoto, Ms. Clark Johnson. Whereas the mayor and its council persons of the city of DeSoto have wisely sought to encourage and recognize young students by its sponsorship of the Mayor of the Day contest. And whereas among the overwhelming number of candidates for 2012, they have rightfully decided to name Ms. Clark Johnson as its recipient for this year. And whereas Ms. Court Dec is an outstanding fifth grader at Northside Elementary School and has already summoned an impressive resume that surpasses most young students her age. Whereas Ms. Clark Johnson is not only achieves academically as a member of the Talented and Gifted program, but she also demonstrates a profound understanding of the comprehensive nature of education and its fullest application. And whereas Ms. Clark Johnson is a member of the Northside Divas Dance Troupe, a volunteer vocalist at her church and school, and a regular member of the Homeless Coalition of Dallas that distributes food to the needy, and a myriad of other social and civic endeavors. And whereas Ms. Clark received her several strong recommendations by her instructors as having expressed a desire to demonstrate her leadership ability as she, quote, walks in the shoes of Mayor Sherman, unquote. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby, and with great pride and admiration, recognize and applaud the work and effort of Ms. Clark Johnson, as she is the winner of the Mayor 4-Day Contest of DeSoto, and a future leader in this community. And she is definitely smarter than a fifth grader.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, I don't know if I'm here for you or her.
Well, just briefly from me, Commissioner Price and Judge Dickens and commissioners presiding, I am honored to stand here with Mayor Clark Johnson. She is definitely smarter than a fifth grader. You know, this young, this young lady was among over 677 students, and 87 at her campus that were vying for the position of mayor for the day. And I think that she is certainly cogent of what we have in the city of DeSoto, the All-American City of DeSoto. I'm pleased to see you, sir, as our commissioner, that we not only can do it on the football field and in the gym. Certainly we're proud to have our DeSoto Eagles. I think we have a game Saturday, don't we, Mayor? And so we're excited about that, but this young lady truly demonstrates that we are equally proud to have it done on the academic field. Mayor Clark Johnson.
Mayor.
It's an honor to be mayor for the day. I'd like to say thank you to my family and friends who have encouraged me to try on what I love and like to do for the community. I'm just happy to be mayor today.
Mayor Johnson, why don't you invite your family up here? I understand that Principal Ward is here as well.
Please, and while they're coming, you got some other people. Y'all come forward.
Assistant Superintendent is here. One of your clients.
I definitely want to commend DeSoto in a couple of ways. Most people don't realize that recently DeSoto had a Rhodes Scholar. And there are a lot of things that are happening in DeSoto. And so the rest of you, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself in some of the schools. Please, introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning. My name is Andrea Johnson. I'm Clark's mother, and thank you again for having us. Thank you for encouraging her and giving her another method to continue to grow. Like, as she stated in her letter, she's student council president and she just want to keep growing. So, and I just pointed out to her as the women are retiring today, and you said that we need new people to fill their shoes, and I'm just glad for her to be able to see that here today. And we're also glad to be here to see Mr. Martin here representing Fine City of DeSoto.
Ms. Johnson, we don't know what he gave you for that, but look. let me thank you, because one of the ingredients as we continue to talk about what's happening in our independent school districts is that one of the ingredients is parental. And apparently that's the reason Mayor Johnson has been as successful. She's had apparently the kind of encouragement and support. And so I just want to thank you and yours for that.
Good morning. I'm Brandon Ward. I'm the principal at Northside Elementary, where we are honored to have Mayor Clark Johnson here. Clark is one of our outstanding students at Northside on that campus. She certainly shines. She's very bright. She has a bright future ahead of her. And we always want to uplift those students who are doing the right things on a daily basis. Thanks to Dr. Pope and the Sunrise D for allowing us this chance, and also Mayor Sherman here. Clark is going to continue to excel. She also does the weather at school every morning. As y'all can see, she had that speaker's voice, and that's always good as well. So thank you, City of Dallas.
Good morning, I am Dr. Gabrielle Pope, Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Schools, and it is indeed a pleasure to be here. We are just most grateful for you giving us this opportunity to recognize Mayor Johnson today. And we want to thank you publicly also, Mayor Sherman, for coming up with this idea along with one of our trustees to allow our students to have an opportunity to walk in your shoes for a day. We look forward to many more opportunities to share with our students the things that happen on this level. And again, we're just grateful and we appreciate this time.
Doctor, I think they said it a few minutes ago, and you've been a good partner with us. You work with us, and you've always been there. You've been there, the bridge and the interim in DeSoto. We're glad to see you're still in the fold. You've always been responsive to the constituents who continue to, where I'm calling about Saturday schools and tutoring. You've always been responsive, and so I just really appreciate it. I appreciate the mayor and that whole engagement, Mayor Sherman, and that whole engagement with the ISD. To your superintendent and to your entire staff, we really appreciate it. Yeah, we talk about these schools, these ISDs on the athletic level. I think there was a recent report that said 20 of the cornerbacks or something in Northville from Texas and Texas schools and doing all this highlight. But they never talk about the Rhodes Scholars. They never talk about the fifth graders and academically what you're doing in DeSoto. I looked at the TEA reports working on another ISD, and you're doing very well. And I just want to applaud and take that back to the doctor.
Thank you so much. But lest I take the credit, you're referring to Ms. Lavetta Levels, who was the interim superintendent. I am one of the new assistant superintendents. Okay. But yes, we want to make sure that we do give her that credit for standing in the fold as we were preparing for the new superintendent. Thank you.
Anyway, y'all want to come up and take a picture?
While they're coming up, Commissioner Price, Judge Dickens, Commissioners, on the ride here, I was telling the mayor about, you got to go there about Commissioner Dickey and how wonderful and passionate she is about Dallas County and the work that she does. And we talked about Dickey's barbecue. She said she loves Dickey's barbecue. Talk about Commissioner Cantrell and the work that he does on the east side, and Judge Dickens coming from the Ellis County portion, and talked about Commissioner Garcia and being a dentist and everything. And I got to talk about Commissioner Price and the work that you do and the dedication that you have for this county as a whole. And I told her how important it was to have a commissioner who is engaged and dedicated as you are. And I told her about all the hours that you work. And I started telling her about the road, Beltline Road, and how a mayor previous to me, Mayor Hurt, was telling me about the commissioner he had before wasn't able to get this project done that he wanted. But when you became our commissioner, you were able to get what TxDOT said couldn't be done, and that was the sidewalks done. And she talked about how important that was for the kids to be able to walk back and forth to school. Well, I thought I was telling her something about Commissioner Price. What she told me was, Mayor, I know him because he also comes to the back to school events every year and he hands out water. So I just wanted to share that. With a picture.
Yes, thank you.
I'm gonna blame that on Zach. Zach Keaton said that's the same thing.
Our next resolution is from Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Judge, colleagues, distinguished members in the audience. It's an honor for me to read the following resolution because it's to someone that really is one of those women, one of those people that has changed not only the face of Dallas, but our nation. A woman that has been a trailblazer for many of us, and I include myself, a role model, but more importantly, a friend that has changed many people's lives. And it's for me, I'm humbled to have the honor of doing this resolution for my good friends and the Honorable Anita N. Martinez. And it reads as follows. Whereas the Honorable Anita N. Martinez is celebrating her 87th birthday on December 8, 2012. This resolution is in recognition of the many marks that she has made in the city of Dallas, Dallas County, the state of Texas, and in the United States of America, as well as internationally based on her unselfish and tireless work and countless contributions. And whereas at the age of 14, Mayor Clark, you're there, Mayor Johnson? Okay. She successfully petitioned the city of Dallas to pave North Pearl Street in her neighborhood of Little Mexico. And at 16, she served as a volunteer with the Red Cross dietitian during the World War II. And whereas she was the first Mexican American to serve in the Dallas City Council, being elected twice and serving from 1969 to 1973, and she was the first Mexican American woman to serve on any city council in the nation. And whereas President Nixon appointed her to the National Center for Voluntary Action, and she was assigned to evaluate and make recommendations on the performance of the Peace Corps in North Africa, the Near East, Asia, and the Pacific, resulting in the creation of a new position reporting to the Attorney General of the United States to oversee international Peace Corps programs. And whereas she's highly recognized for galvanizing a community to bring about the need and changes and improvements to the long-neglected Mexican-American barrio of West Dallas, included paving streets, curbs, gutters, indoor toilets, a police storefront, a multi-purpose social service center, a freestanding library, streets, lights, Los Barrios Unidos Clinic, the Lorenzo de Zavala Elementary School, and the Action Center, a department committed to handling complaints and requests by citizens, as well as major improvements in the beautiful Pike Park and Riverton Park recreation centers of Little Mexico. And whereas she's recognized for breaking down cultural barriers by identifying, supporting, and promoting Hispanics to key influential positions in the Dallas areas, such as Dallas ISD School Board, the Public Library, the Dallas City Council, the Greater Dallas Relations Commission, and city and county judgeships, as well as participating in discussions and actions that resulted in a multi-million-dollar bond program to fund the building of the Latino Cultural Center. And whereas the Honorable Anita Martinez is recognized for her long life devotion to service and youth programs, having organized 40 Dallas professionals to conduct a summer seminar for 400 youth, initiated a 5-state youth leadership institute in Dallas, and has been involved with the YWCA Metropolitan Board, Children's Medical Board, the St. Teresa's Teen Club, as well as St. Monica, Ursuline, and Jesuit schools, and the expansion of the Anita N. Martinez Recreation Center. She founded the Anita N. Martinez Ballet Folklorico, which provides education through the arts, giving confidence and cultural pride in Latino youth throughout the teachings of dance, history, focus, discipline, and teamwork. And whereas she has received countless awards for her contributions and dedications, the Honorable Anita N. Martinez legacy to this community and the world will continue to inspire and empower Latinos and everyone and all generations to open doors and think beyond cultural borders for all our times. And that's what I am so honored. From the bottom of my heart, I want to move that now be resolved that Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby proclaim December 4, 2012 in Dallas County to be the Anita N. Martinez Day in our county. And I proudly know.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those in favor?
Thank you so much, Dr. Garcia. You read that so beautifully. It is a pleasure to be here and see all the people that have gone before me that have been recognized in their community. And I encourage you to keep on doing that. I don't think the mic is on, is it? Yes. I'm not going to take too long because I know that you all have business to do, but I just want to say thank you for doing this resolution on the county level. It is really an honor for me to receive it, especially from my very special friend, El Garcia. And my cameraman, when I was in the city council, he was an assistant cameraman, and he always made an effort to take a picture of me to do it, but I was doing. So thank you, Johnny Riley Price.
I know that.
And further, I have a cup, a commemorative cup, and I want each one of you to have one. My son, Al Martinez, will be passing them to you, and I would like for you to have coffee, tea, orange juice, or milk with me every morning and drink that.
Councilwoman, well, let me just say that, first of all, I mean, there are no words to express what I mean really about this community. People eat in a lot of different restaurants today, but for those of us who come from this community, we know there was nothing but El Phoenix. I just appreciate the way you and Mr. Martinez Alfred have always been.
Thank you. I'd be happy to hear you say his name.
Yes, you know I'm going to say his name. They're very, very, very supportive, big supportive. And so I just want to join my colleagues and Dr. Garcia especially in saying this thank you. And boy, whatever you drink, and even the cups in that water, you can pass it around. There's a whole lot of folks. Well, anyway, 80s, just God has been very good. And just thank you. We've been very fortunate that you're in this community. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Well, I hope to see each one of you and every one of you at one of our performances of the Anita N. Martinez Ballet Folklorico, and look forward to the papers. And come and see us. We're at the AT&T Performing Arts Center. We're one of the 5 resident groups there. So y'all join Dianita and Martinez. Muchas gracias.
Please.
You have a picture? Yes. We will be having tea with Anita in the morning. And don't forget, the ballet folklorico also take donations, guys.
But put some in the sheet. Frank, yeah, we Frank.
I guess, oh, thanks.
Frank, you're not gonna join us? Did Maria say one of us?
You turned your head,
Yeah.
All right. They said
No, he just looks that way.
And our last resolution is from me. Will Travis Gasper and those from AIDS Interfaith Network please come forward? Last week we celebrated, or not celebrated, but we commemorated the struggle against HIV with World AIDS Day. And it was a fitting tribute as well as a community education and resource opportunity at the Main Street Garden. Because it was I believe the court was canceled last week, and at the last minute we were able to have court. This was to be read last week, but we moved it to this week so that recipients could be here. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas World AIDS Day was established on December 1st, 1988 to celebrate awareness, raise funds, fight prejudice, and improve education about human immunodeficiency virus and acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Whereas World AIDS Day continues to be an important way to celebrate the extraordinary advances made in the fight against AIDS, remember those who have lost their lives to this devastating disease, and remind people everywhere that there is still so much more that needs to be done in the fight against it. Whereas HIV/AIDS continues to have a global impact, for almost 34 million people, including 3.4 million children, are living with HIV/AIDS, while nearly 30 million have died worldwide. And whereas HIV/AIDS continues to be a priority health concern in the United States, with over 1.2 million Americans living with HIV. Approximately 50,000 Americans becoming infected with HIV each year, and 1 in 5 people living with HIV being unaware of their infection. Whereas Dallas County has the highest rate of new HIV infections in the state of Texas, one of the highest rates of new HIV infections in the nation. Whereas while scientific advances and expanded access to HIV testing, diagnosis, and treatment can help reduce transmission and prevent further symptoms, it is vital to educate the public on how they can protect themselves and others against this preventable disease. Whereas Coalition of AIDS Services organizations, community groups, businesses, and residents gathered downtown in Main Street Gardens to commemorate the 2012 World AIDS Day Dallas on December 1 at 3 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved, and it was resolved last week as well in a separate resolution. The Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby proclaim December 1, 2012 as World AIDS Day in Dallas County, Texas, and encourages all of our citizens to participate in community events and educate themselves on this disease throughout the year. Encourages everyone to know their status. That's it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Commissioners. With me here is Roger Waddell from Legal Hospice of Texas, and I wanted to thank you for recognizing this important day. Know that it's not just a day, it's work that continues year-round with the Zip-Zap program that Commissioner Price recognized last week. Director Thompson was with us over the weekend downtown talking about this important fight. So we want Dallas County to be #1, but not in this category. So we hope to come back next year with better news, and thank you for drawing attention to this.
Well, thank you for being partners with us. The theme was getting down to zero. And Mr. Thompson left us excited. On Saturday we had testing for tickets for Kwanzaa Fest, and we tested over 100 individuals this past Saturday at St. Louis Community United Methodist Church. I want to thank Dr. Michael Green for that. But we just want to thank you for being a partner, with us. It's still, it's really interesting. And I guess some of us got educated there on Saturday as well in terms of the availability of certain products in certain communities. I know people don't want to talk about this. We've talked about this in Dallas County before. We talk about, the whole condom issue. But apparently what is missing, and I was challenged Saturday, and I went to see, if you go north, you can find female condoms. You get south of 30, you can't find them. And the only somebody who apparently has them is Dallas County, and I guess it's AIDS Arms, only 2. And so it's really interesting in that apparently it is a new tool in this fight, especially since a number of new infected persons are African American women with the disease. So while we don't like to talk about certain deals, that female condom seems to be a new tool in the arsenal to deal with this disease. We got illustrations on Saturday, no availability of product. So people always ask what they can do. I would ask them to challenge our various pharmacy outlets and drugstores to talk about why we don't have that product south as opposed to north. So thank you for being a collaborator.
All right, the next item we'll consider item 9, the consent agenda. Positions 0527, 1121, and 1230 have been pulled from the consent agenda and will be discussed in executive session. Is there a motion on the rest of the amended consent agenda? Motion and second, all those in favor? Next we'll consider quarters 10 through 27, pulling 26. Is there a motion on 27? Second.
I yield second, Dr. Garcia, and definitely want to comment on 14 since we have so many speakers here. Judge Jenkins and I appreciate Commissioner Cantrell for last week. I understand his wife is recovering. She had some surgery last week. He came in as a quorum on this court to make sure that we were able to carry out the business of this court, which we were elected. But I want to thank both a number of our speakers who are here today. Bill Mosquito's court order number 14 speaks to the fact that we're adding 2 microbiologist position duties to our health and human services department. This is primarily so that we can target and deal with year-round surveillance with regards to the issues of mosquito. It is part of our plan, it's part of our arsenal. This is not contemplated as a result of what happened. It's just the fact that our cities have bought into what we consider to be the plan, the vector plan, in which we move forward with our assault on the whole West Nile population. And so I want to thank Mr. Thompson and his department. Also, there was a piece on CBS 11 called The Doctors. And so if you saw those, I sent it to all my colleagues with regards to how well Dallas County is beginning to deal with this whole issue of West Nile. And so Mr. Thompson, I commend you and your staff for that. So again, just wanted to be aware, we received the numbers. If the numbers were what we said they were last week with regards to those 3 zip codes, and Mr. Thompson, let me ask you to 14, speak to 14, but bless you. Speak to 14 with regards to not only microbiologists, but with regards to the numbers that we have received with regards to those zip codes in the city of Dallas that with regards to the same.
I want to be clear. I want to thank the judge and the commissioner's court for their support of Dallas County Health and Human Services. This subcommittee, some people may try to take credit for this, the subcommittee of the city have met and looked at what the needs are. The needs that have been identified based on the last episode we had here was a 1 in a 50-year episode. In previous years, there has not been any data that indicates that we need to go to year-round testing. The state of Texas does not even do year-round testing. So one of the things that our city recommended in our subcommittee is that we look at year-round surveillance testing for mosquito traps in the area. All of our cities are on board. One specific area that we're concerned with is the northeast quadrant of Dallas. That has been traditionally an area that we need to focus on. And so we've asked the city of Dallas, and they have agreed to put fixed traps in those areas. We've already done preliminary tests in that area. All of the mosquito traps were negative for West Nile, but there were a high number of queens, which are the vector that carries the West Nile virus that we're seeing, and that's a concern that I've already conveyed to the city that they need to continue to trap in those 3 zip code areas that we have identified. So the surveillance is ongoing, but I do want to commend the subcommittee, the Public Health Advisory Committee, the fact that those cities have come together and said that they want to focus on our lab as being real-time turnaround on the West Nile virus. We do the PCR testing. And so whatever's been said, let me be real clear. The state of Texas never did PCR. They stopped doing PCR testing. They only did it this year during the height of the epidemic. They will not be doing it next year. We have the only lab that is doing that. And I want to commend our staff and the city for working through one of the worst West Nile seasons that anyone has seen. So I do want to give compliments to those municipalities because they really work to ensure the safety of their citizens. Anything else that's being said is totally inaccurate.
Mr. Thompson, I appreciate your leadership and also your attention to prevention on West Nile virus. It's very important that we not be caught unaware, and I'm sure we will never be caught unaware again. And I appreciate all the people that have come up to speak about it because it shows that the community has really gotten involved. Thank you for your leadership, and also I'm thrilled that we have these extra microbiologists so that they can be on board to be vigilant about what's growing out there.
And I'll supply the court updates every week, weather permitting, because if temperatures get below 50 degrees, we won't be able to do the trapping. But I want to be clear, the city are bringing their mosquito traps to us. And we're very glad to be on board with that. And so we have one of the best mosquito labs in the state as the doctor program got a chance to review. I find it amazing some even state agencies or even the feds didn't come visit our mosquito control program. So at least the doctors show not enough to contact.
Well, Zach, I think one of the things that we need to say is that we weren't caught unaware. We stayed with our plan. Is that correct? I want the record to be real clear.
The plan is, and then we've enhanced our plan now
right.
To look at surveillance year-round. We're not trying to mimic the Sacramento plan, Maricopa plan. We're working on a Dallas County plan. And anybody that infuses that is not accurate. So we'll get down to the minutiae of those different perspectives. In our January PHAC meeting, we'll bring that forward, and then we'll bring our plan, once it's been vetted with the Public Health Advisory, we'll bring it forth to the court. But whatever report comes down, from whatever federal agency, we're moving ahead of the game plan, and it's showing us that there are quinks still here. One missing element in here is the environmental factor that is contributing to the high number of mosquitoes in this area. And I know
It's still warm in December, and so as a
80
result,
degrees makes a difference.
it makes a difference. And so as a result, the city again stepped up, city of Dallas.
City of Dallas, all of our
All of us stepped up, but the city of Dallas is the one that committed the extra 90 traps. I'm gonna be real clear. The extra 90 traps, they've already delivered some of those traps, and we have now begun.
That northeast quadrant is the one to be clear. That northeast quadrant is a hot area that we have trended on data, and that's where we're going to stay focused. We'll look at all Dallas County, because some people take the wrong information and might think we come in an office one morning. I want to be real clear. The issue is that we're going to look at all of Dallas County, but the northeast quadrant is the key hotspots that we've seen based on our trend data.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I also want to you understand, because not only for raising awareness, but for bringing everybody together. Our plan is a good plan. It just has to be, well understand, better, like you say, and bring the best. And these two positions, are going to make a difference when it comes to speed, when it comes to education, when it comes to, continue to create awareness about this. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
And I want to join in that. Thank the Dallas County Health and Human Services Department for their work on this. What we have found, the CDC, the state, local officials, local groups, the scientific community, and the concerned citizens for safer mosquito control have all agreed essentially that the best way to handle future West Nile epidemics is to keep them from happening. And the best way to keep them from happening is through increased surveillance, so we can target and eradicate the mosquitoes before they get to epidemic levels. I want to second Commissioner Price's thanks to the City of Dallas, because one key component, this is like so many things, a big component of this is money. And the City of Dallas is putting more money into more traps. I want to thank our partners who are paying for these, or a large portion of these two microbiologists through the BioWatch Lab grant. We just got to continue to work together. The private citizens that are here today to speak to us about their concerns, the local medical and science community, the local officials led by Health and Human Services, our state and our federal government, to make sure that this never happens again. And also, this serves, and the work that we're doing here locally and in conjunction with the state and the federal government, not only benefits our citizens and all the citizens in North Texas, but it benefits the citizens of God knows where, but where that West Nile epidemic will be next year, because we'll learn valuable information from what we're doing with this surveillance, and we'll learn valuable information from all of the sharing of information with our state and federal partners and from the reports that will be coming in. And so I want to commend everyone. Now, on the speakers, because we're now, this is a same-day briefing and a court order. The speakers listed various types of insecticide spraying. If you're here to speak for or against, and I assume you're all here to speak, it's the same group, against the insecticide spraying, we don't need to hear from you right now, we'll hear from you at the end, because that's not on our agenda. If any of the speakers intended to speak on microbiologists, you didn't sign up for that, but if you feel that that's the main thing you're here to speak about, if you'll raise your hand, we'll consider letting you speak at this time. Otherwise, we'll hear from you at the end with the public speakers. Seeing no hands, call the question. All right. Is there any other comment on another court before we? All right. Question has been called. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have our briefing session.
Respectfully, Judge Jenkins, respectfully, with regard to one of the matters on the consent agenda, the matters was pulled.
Yes.
We will be meeting in executive session pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, correct?
Yes.
That's what I said.
Yeah, and as a matter of form, I always say that at the end of court, I'll give that announcement, but thank you for that. All right, so Ms. Martin, would you mind taking us through the briefing session today?
Well, Judge Commission, the first item is the play of the local board winners for the month of November and December. If you are here, I would ask you to please stand and we will recognize you all. From the auditor's office, I have Ms. Audrey Brooks, County Clerk, Yvonne White, CCC number 1, Ms. Barbara Campbell, Election, Ms. Vicki Bynum, Health and Human Services, Ms. McGlynn Judd.
Hold on, Mr. Martin. Y'all come down here, because otherwise you're blending in with everybody else.
Come on down to the front, come on down to the front line. And maybe to make it more fun, Dale, when you say that name, say, come on down like it's a price is right. Okay.
Information Technology again, Mr. Mark Brooks. Juvenile Department, Mr. John Miller. Medical Examiner, Ms. Amanda Webb. From the Sheriff's Office, Ms. Charlotte Lacey. From the Tax Office, Ms. Loretta Elmer. From Elections, Ms. Bridget Allen. Another election, Ms. Mandy Bush. From Information Technology, Ms. Alice Sweet. And from the Medical Examiner, Mr. Albert Baldwin. You all come on down. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Should we get a picture with y'all? Yeah. Take it off.
December
18th.
That's why they're employees of the month, they want to go back to work.
December 18th. The top format of all lessons throughout the year, and you will recognize that person setting. I do want to thank all of the department heads for participating in this for the first year. Item 2, Health and Human Services. 2A, that was on your formal agenda. 2B, recommend approval of the Department of State Health Services contract tuberculosis prevention and control federal. 2C, recommend approval of the renewal agreement to provide health services to persons with STD/HIV by the Resource Center of Dallas. 2D, recommend approval of the memorandum of agreement with Dallas Medical Care Services. 2E, recommend approval of the renewal agreement with Concord Career Institute. And 2F, recommend approval of the revised housing choice voucher program administrative plans listed in the packet. Item 3,
Let me just ask Mr. Thompson real quickly, with regards to the voucher program and the administrative plan, have we had to amend that plan somewhat?
Yes, sir, we did have to amend that. As part of the work, we took on additional housing agency, which included Lancaster Housing Agency, basically opted out of providing housing for vouchers. We basically taking on 500 of those particular voucher holders. It's been a smooth transition. We've worked with in terms of meeting with the landlords, meeting with the tenants, and so it's been a seamless process. Basically, we updated our administrative plan to consider the fact that the waiting list is blended, and we have a separate waiting list, and that's different than what we had before. We had one waiting list, and now we're able to bring in those who are on the Lancaster Housing Trust voucher waiting list. We'll bring them in to save the water along with ours. So the infusion of this to make sure it's seamless. So we won't have to open up our waiting list for a number of years.
Exactly. Well, we were going to open a voucher about 5 years approximately, and I wanted to be real clear, Mr. Martin, primarily because I remember my mayor and the city manager. They had told me that they had expressed their wishes to exit that program. We were worried about how it was impacted. Mr. Thompson seamlessly made sure that it was going on, and the fact that it was not going to impact our voucher program and our waiting list. It was part of the grail in terms of housing. And so when you start talking about bringing somebody else into the mix, they already want to know whether or not they're going to lose their position with regards to that. So Mr. Thompson and staff.
I want to thank the auditor's office who really helped in terms of getting the first payment out on piece number one. I will recognize the fact that in terms of those landlords who bring it on, we're going to have current W-9 if they don't. So we have to follow our procedure to make the comments on them. But that is our rule. We have to have updated W-9. So we support that. The auditors require that we try to make sure that we proceed to take that thing.
Thank you, because believe me, they do call and they don't get their payments.
And I want to thank you for, I read the plan and I noticed you incorporated safeguards to ensure that the elderly and folks that are mobility challenged can access it in ways other than waiting in lines and going up situations where people rush ahead. So I appreciate those
we don't got any complaints over the last time.
And you also incorporated, changes in family, changes, women with children without support. I mean, I think that the changes have been very good. And thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3, Department records approval of the concept of Gulf Coast Trade Center for services to youth. Item 4, IT.
That's just our way of saying that when you do all the work, publish all the papers, someone will see you.
Thank you. Item 4, IT 4A, recommend approval of the telework pilot program for positions listed in review for a 6-month trial savings. Item 4B, that closes on the formal agenda. Item 5, purchasing 5A, recommend approval of the contract for RFP for Dallas County Justice of the Court Case Management System.
Really?
I want to say something. And I am delighted and thank you, to the District Attorney's Office. Thank you to you, Mr. Ryan Brown, Mr. Martin, Gordon Heichel, and everyone, all the JPs that have participated in this. The reality is we passed this item, colleagues, more than 6 months ago. I know there were some legal and some technical difficulties, but what I want to say really is that the challenge starts now. Now is when the rubber is going to meet the road and all the changes, unifying all the paperwork, with all our JPs, and more importantly, make it more efficient for all our constituents that do business with JP courts. I also want to mention Judge Sider. He has been in the forefront about this issue, and I want to thank him for his leadership with CJA, and of course, what is coming. So I hope that, and thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Stanley Dixon, for all his work. I know, Mr. Dixon, that is going to be in your court to implement all these changes, and I'm really happy, with your leadership as well, working with everybody else to put this item here. It's about time.
I really appreciate you, Commissioner Garcia, Dr. Garcia, but someone has been on you can understand that this has been really a wrestle. And I really, even for it to get this far, that commission came through. Major, you understand what he's been just you inherited it, but he's birthed and been with it for a while. And I just really want to continue to thank him because if this county has moved forward anything in terms of information technology, it's because he's driven it both at the local level and at the state level, and he's recognized for both.
What about the article that was in the Dallas Morning News? How do you feel about that recent article on information technology?
I'm glad you asked. I will read it because Mr. Victor's going to give an update on that and lay out the payment report with side by side on the major accomplishments. I think Dallas Morning News seriously missed the mark on it as far as where we're at in Dallas County. But I'd also like to state that I wish it had only been 6 months, Commissioner, and I appreciate the work through CJAP that you've done and Commissioner Parker's comments. This has been a long process with the JP court case management. It goes back to a different court, different members that were here, and sort of we got caught up in a lot of stuff on it. But we have moved this point, the ball forward on this. And what's interesting is we do have all the JPs as well as their chief clerks have signed off on the charter. And something that's very important and something that I know Shannon, y'all have all worked with time and time again. In Exhibit F, you can see the responsibilities, and that's what's going to be critical on this. Now, the JPs have all signed off, and they know what performance measures are on this, and we're going to hold everybody to that. Because what typically happens is once you implement that program, and this is the program that all the JPs wanted, particularly the two that were representing the other JPs, it's very easy to say you want something, and once you get it, say who recommended this mess. You know, so we did have everybody sign off. You know, I know we had transition sometimes in those elected offices, but having that sign off and getting that commitment and memorializing what the response time is going to be very critical to this. So, you know, we're looking forward to having it implemented.
I hope that we can turn it around. I know the CUC is going to be essential in working with this on a statewide basis. I think I was very saddened to see the article in the Daily News because it appears that we've wasted a lot of years on our IT system, and I just trust that it will be turned around.
All right, and I want us to keep our comments pertinent to the things on the meeting agenda. I'm not familiar with a morning news article on JP case management systems.
No, Judge, it was not.
Well, then let's if you want to put something on the agenda about that other matter.
I didn't bring it up. I was just.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move to the next item. Before we do, by the way, let me make one thing clear. I see one of our most valued and oldest employees here in Dallas County. Who's been patiently waiting in the back of the room for an hour for the seat or so. These seats that say reserved on them were reserved earlier today for like people that were, for instance, for the little girl who's being mayor for the day. They're no longer reserved. So any seats that you see that are open, there's several over here, and there is one on the second row over here. If anyone would like to sit down, we have 23 speakers on a variety of topics, so we're going to be here for a while. So if anyone would like to sit down, feel free to do so. For folks who are speaking, you are perfectly free to stay until the end of the session after you speak. If you decide to do so, you may also consider taking turns with some of your compatriots who have been standing for a while. You've got some folks who I see Mr. Pollard and some others who've been standing for quite some time. All right, so that was moving to the next.
Item 5, again, courtesy recommend approval of the award for RFP to track GPS for screening for most qualified residents, trust authority, and association.
Shannon, how did you, excuse me, Mr. Martin, the memo in regards to that, you're comfortable with everything vetted out of the memo?
Okay. Myself, but one person goes to the committee that
Look at it.
the sheriff's office and telecommunications and ASC.
So it's not your one, it's the committee, there's a committee. Most stuff we do in these is committee.
Yes, sir.
Continue. Thank you.
Item 5C, recommend approval of RFP for substitute street facilities for Dallas County DWI courts. Item 6, public works, 6A, recommend approval for equipment purchase for support upgrades to the GIS team and property management. Item 6B, recommend purchase of APS network lower on staff in Fund 196. Item 6C, that quarter from the formal agenda, as well as 6C was pulled. 6D, that quarter was on the formal agenda.
And then let me just say to,
That's right.
Okay. And I just want to say, I know that's just a right of entry agreement, but again, it continues to talk about what's going on in that corridor. He met with the mayor and some individuals, and Mr. Rosberg yesterday, and had, if this were not to occur, it would set us back several years. So, thank you. we're on track. Thank you.
Item 17, develop and recommend approval of change order number 3 for additional 12 days work and change order number 4 for additional $32,000 including services for the Grand Curve Sub Courthouse. Item 8, Commission for Administration, item 1, item 3, Class B. Item 9, budget. 9A, conference travel training request. 9B, request approval of 2 public defenders, 7 as a legal assistant grade 10, and a public defender investigating grade 68 to work with public defender's capital murder section and refer to HR civil service.
And I want to amend that. Well,
I want to comment on the good work that the VA and budget did on this, but go ahead. Well, I'm sorry, yeah, I beg your pardon, that is correct, that Linda Richardson, the
public defender's office. But I want Ms. Richardson to come forward, and I think I saw probably one of the proposals. Mr. Lawler, you want to come forward with Ms. Richardson, please? Wow. And Ms. Richardson, yes, Ms. Richardson. Yeah, Ms. Richardson. Mr. Beecher, you also I didn't see him, so where is that?
He stepped out for a second.
Oh, he stepped out? Okay, and Mr. Blocker. And the reason is because once we got this, and I understand Ryan moving forward and felt as though that there was going to be some issues with regards to the appellate attorney. First of all, this is not only a very cost-saving move for Dallas County, but I think it's a very humanistic, necessary move. But the appellate attorney, I think it definitely needs to be part of this inclusion. Because apparently there are 2 tracks. The state, Mr. Watkins, apparently on every capital case, and I see both Mr. Watkins and Mr. Harrison here, so they can comment on it, but it's my understanding that they have 4 attorneys and 2 appellates on all capital cases. Is that correct?
They do have a team, and there is an appellate component of it.
Right.
This briefing doesn't necessarily, this briefing was not intended to say we shouldn't have an appellate component. It was saying that rather than having that appellate component function within the public defender's office, that it would continue to be an appointed position that the courts would appoint to allow there to be a conflict of interest not to be perceived as it was an alternate conservative approach. And it wasn't intended to address the direct appeal. It was intended to address any writ issues that came down the road.
That's different. That's different. And I agree with you on the writ side, because the writ side usually responds to the ineffective assistance of counsel. And while I understand that and agree with that, and we don't want the PD's office filing writs in that regard, also the direct appeal to the Court of Criminal Appeals, and that's an appellate. And again, the state is sitting there with a team and 2 appeal attorneys. The appellate attorney needs to be part of, I see Mr. Harris coming forward. Is there something I misspoke on, Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're clear that.
Okay.
When we do get when Ms. Watkins does make a decision to go forward with that, the case is typically assigned to one of the super chiefs.
Okay.
And I think it's safe to also say whichever court that case would be assigned to, that chief in that court would also participate. But whether or not there's going to be an additional 2, it's just a case-by-case basis. That's not an absolute.
Well, we went through and kind of called.
I'm just
we
don't have a policy that on every death penalty case that there are going to be 4 attorneys on the case.
Okay.
I would suggest to the court that because we have had a change in our administrations, we've had as far as our super chief and the experience level, that's why you've seen additional attorneys on those cases gaining more experience.
Okay. Well, and I understand that my issue. You have at least 2 appellate attorneys. That's where I'm trying to go.
I would agree with that.
Okay, that's where I'm trying to go. Thank you, sir. Okay, both of you, Mr. White. That's where I'm going. I'm going with the appellate attorney. So the appellate attorneys are part of the team, regardless of how many they decide to assign to the team. They have 2 appellate attorneys sitting there with them, helping to advise them. And of course, they don't have the same burden as the ineffective assistance of counsel that the defense has. All I'm saying to you is that while you recommended going forward on the capital division. You did not recommend at this time the appellate division. And all I'm telling you is that all I'm saying, having contacted some other individuals, they said that an appellate, an attorney for the direct appeals is almost, necessary. And I'll let Mr. Richardson and Mr. Blockman, Mr. Beecham, good to see you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have the proposed team here, but it is critical for us. We're talking about somebody's life. And so it is essential that we have a team in place that we're able to provide the best possible representation. We cannot nickel and dime this. Again, the parity, as you mentioned, if you have part of the team on the DA's office, you have the counsel advising them during the trial portion, it is essential that we also have the same support system in place. Also, I think in the court appointments that are being given out now, it's not unusual for an attorney to be assigned a court-appointed attorney who works on the case in chief and also will work on the appeal. Again, you stated correctly that when there are instances of writs and ineffective assistance of counsel, then it would be a conflict. But we think we save Dallas County a tremendous amount of money rather than hiring on every single case we handle a court-appointed attorney and paying them $100,000 plus for an individual case. We think if you have this team in place, it will save Dallas County substantially. If anyone else want to comment on that?
I know they affirmed. I did call them after I got some emails yesterday, and I did talk to them, and they were in concurrence with that. So all I'm saying, I understand. I understand your position.
It just really is the difference of, is that going to be a court-appointed appeals attorney or is it going to be a public defender appeals attorney? Clearly, in a perfect scenario, the public defender appeals attorney will be more cost-effective. I don't doubt that for a second. It's just that if you ever had one get overturned, that is such a huge cost because remember, each death penalty is about $1.7 million. And so you're just talking that that minute piece of risk that I was trying to mitigate. But it can go either way. I mean, the function needs to be done.
Okay, right. But again, I want to make sure we get the line. The Court of Appeals is the one that this division needs to be armchair with them, as opposed to the writ. Okay, and there's a very apparently, when you look at it, very few writs. Again, there's still $100,000, but it's very few writs with regards to that.
That was great.
Okay.
You want to amend this?
I want to amend it. That's
You have a commitment from the judges to use CD's office on capital cases.
Yes, that is
Do you have their commitment to use an appellate? In other words, are they going to cease making appointments on appellate?
I'll need to go back to the judges and confirm what they were, when they made that commitment, what that commitment meant to them. Because I believe that this is when the original agreement was pushed forth, it has been amended since then. And so I just need to make sure that they're agreeable. If they're agreeable that there needs to be an appellate function, then that's not really in question.
Well, I understand.
And it wasn't the judges who brought up the issue of not using the PD's office. That was actually came from me. And when I was researching this and looking at it. So I'm comfortable with contacting them and go.
Well, but you'd have to say it would be a cost saving if they make that agreement.
There definitely would be a cost saving if they make that agreement.
Well, that's all we want to do is make the agreement.
Right, and as I said, my only issue was is if we did get one overturned and it kicks it back.
But Commissioners, we're going to select someone that the attorneys that are handling this trust their opinion. Because what we want to do is we want to ensure that these cases don't come back. So it's critical that we have the right person in place. I also like to say that because we have two attorneys, that does not mean that we're going to handle every single capital case that comes to Dallas County. Obviously, these cases are labor intensive and they require a lot of time and a lot of energy. So it doesn't mean that there won't be court-appointed counsel out there to continue to get.
Well, but for the majority of the cases, there is a commitment on, if I'm going to support it, that commitment has to be there on behalf of the district judge.
Judges have indicated that they.
I understand there's outliers. I mean, there's going to be outliers.
But the outliers on the writ side.
Well, not what she was just saying there. She was just talking about she's not going to, this team is not going to, the unit is not going to handle all capital murder cases. we understand it's going to be hours, but the general commitment from the district judges is to use this unit.
That's correct. Yes, the general commitment is to use this as primarily, particularly when you think there's a chance that it'll go to a death penalty ruling. Because that's really where the dollar savings had. You have to capture those death penalties to be able to get this to a cost-effective nature.
Brian, is there any way that you could quantify the general commitment? It's going to be real expensive if we had it both ways. What is the general commitment? Is it the majority or two-thirds?
The commitment from the judges, as I've discussed it with several of them, was that use it as much as possible, certainly on any case that would go towards the, what they call mini cap, which is going to be the ones that sometimes fall into death penalty. Problem is you don't know at the initial filing it's going to be a death penalty. It's a decision that's made later, and you've already made appointments. So you want to make sure that anything that's going to be in that category gets appointed to the PD's office. And there is capacity for them to do all of those. There is also capacity for them to do a good portion, if not the majority, of the other capital murder stuff. It's just they sometimes come in a wave, and if you get a wave of them, then they may not be able to handle all of them. Sometimes they're even not from the same event. You just have multiple people that are in charge.
Multiple different.
And it's also a training tool for the other attorneys in the office. Obviously, there are a limited number of people who are capable of trying these cases.
Pull it down to
There's a limited number of attorneys that try these kinds of cases. And so when we put together a team of very experienced lawyers, we had the opportunity also to train young lawyers to handle this kind of work in the future.
It's my understanding that you've assembled a team that probably has tried most of those. I'm 17, but two of them, one of them has about 14 years and the other has about 13.
That's correct. Mr. Andy Beach and Mr. Brad Lawler.
Right, so we're looking at the team. It's just the appellate piece, the direct court to appeals appellate piece that I'm on amended.
I'll talk with some of the judges and I'll include that out of the court.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Yes, sir. Mr. Watkins.
Item 9C, recommendation approval of conviction of Item D, recommendation approval of State of Dallas, Dallas, raise annual question animal cruelty unit, public defender's office, city attorney's office. I do have speakers listed on this topic. Before we get that, we have one miscellaneous equipment bring up. Sheriff's Department requesting the purchase of 10 iPad repair plans at a cost of $8,700 through the commissary account, and that is to address some of the issues that occurred
Here or the attorney, they vetted it. Brian, does that meet the needs? They're able to do that, are we able to really link that to?
The MOU is drafted, will allow us to link together very well. The way it's drafted is that once we have full funding, we would actually come back to Commissioner Court and create the positions. And then I did it so that it'd be 12 months from that point in time when the full funding is in place. But that, I'm confident that we'll reach full funding probably by the end of the month through the holiday season.
Okay, just want to make sure it's the MOU because of the funding sources.
Judge, may I take a moment of personal privilege? I would like to introduce my husband, Roland, and my son, Roland Jr., who just came in. First time in court in 8 years. Thank you for coming, guys.
So you have 9 speakers, I believe, on this application items. Will you take them now, Judge?
Yes, we will. We will read the rules of decorum for all speakers. This group and the ones on miscellaneous matters. I will read that once. Please read the rules of decorum.
All Commissioners Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of Dallas County Code Section 74-71. Visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all applause to be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Disruptive visitors and the registered speakers may be removed and are subject to the penalties provided in the state of Texas Penal Code Sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion on any one topic is limited to 3 minutes.
Our first speaker on the topic of animal cruelty, budget briefing item 6. or 9D rather, is Mr. Skip Trimble.
But before he does it, Judge, will somebody lay it out in the district court? Okay, they're gonna lay it out. Okay, good.
He's on his way here right now. He's in the lobby.
Did you want to lay out this? You want to have the speaker there? Okay. Mr. Skip Trimble. Good morning, Mr. Trimble. Mr. Trimble, if you would just state your name and your address, you'll hear a beep. When you hear a second series of beeps, just finish your thought, please.
The second beep?
When you hear the second beep, 3 minutes later, finish your thought.
Sure, thank you. My name is Skip Trimble. I live at 5936 Woodland, Dallas, Texas. I'm here representing myself as well as the Texas Humane Legislation Network, which is a nonprofit corporation which has its primary purpose as to pass laws in the state of Texas that will increase animal welfare in our state. I've also served on the Dallas Animal Shelter Commission for 14 years, which deals with the animal shelter in the city of Dallas. And I'm here to support the proposition of creating an animal cruelty unit with the Dallas County Attorney's Office. We have passed many laws in Texas that help animals, not the least of which are strong animal cruelty statutes. When I first started working on this, Texas was at the very bottom of the United States on animal protection and animal cruelty laws. Now we're right up at the top. But passing laws is only the starting point for seeing that animal cruelty is prosecuted and dealt with effectively. It's very difficult to prosecute animal cruelty cases because the victim cannot testify. And you have to have specialized prosecutors and investigators to make the prosecution of these crimes effective. This initiative is something that I have looked forward to for many years. Unfortunately, Houston beat us to the draw. They have shown that it is very effective and very cost effective to have one of these designated units. We have a lot of animal crime in this city. We have dog fighting, we have cockfighting, we have vicious cruelty to animals, murdering dogs, husbands or boyfriends getting upset with their girlfriend or wife and mutilating their cats. These things lead to much, much more serious crime. Violence is violence. And the FBI has shown that every serial killer in the United States started off as a We need to take this seriously. I think the DA and I think this Commissioner's Court is taking a great step in doing that. I strongly support it, and I encourage you to put this program into play. I do know, having been on the Dallas Animal Shelter Commission, that we have one of the best animal directors, animal cruelty directors. They will cooperate. They're looking forward to having this resource. And I think putting a team together like is proposed here, working closely with the city of Dallas and the other cities in this county will make a huge difference for our animals and, more importantly, our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Johnny England. Please just state your name and address. Same thing, do the beeps.
Thank you. Johnny England, 2805 Bonniewood Lane in Dallas. Good morning, Judge Jenkins and Commissioners. In April 2006, a dog named Mercy was stabbed, doused with gasoline, and set on fire. By the time she died 10 days later, her name and her story were known throughout Texas, across the country, and around the world. After an investigation by the Dallas Police and a strong and solid prosecution by our Dallas County District Attorney's Office, her owner was convicted of a third-degree felony and sentenced to 4 years in prison. Mercy wasn't the first cruelty case prosecuted in Dallas County, but hers was the most visible, and it became the face of animal abuse. Since then, there has been an increasing number of animal cruelty cases by jurisdictions throughout Dallas County. And the dedicated prosecutors and hardworking investigators, already overburdened with thousands of other crimes, have added these cases to their workloads and pursued them as diligently as any other. The citizens of Dallas County understand that, as Skip said, there is a documented link between animal cruelty and human violence, and that cruelty to animals affects our quality of life, our safety, and our sensibilities as a society, whether it's dogfighting, cockfighting, terrible neglect, or shocking and deliberate acts of torture like that inflicted on Mercy. It's time for Dallas County to join Harris County, Los Angeles, and other counties around the country in establishing a dedicated animal cruelty unit within the District Attorney's Office. By doing so, Dallas County will be sending a strong and clear message that animal cruelty will not be tolerated, that it will be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and that those who abuse animals will pay for their crimes. So in memory of Mercy, and on behalf of all of us who work or volunteer in animal welfare, thank you, Commissioner Garcia, for recognizing this great need and working to make it a reality, to Commissioner and Mr. Dickey, and the Safer Dallas, Better Dallas for supporting it so generously, to all the commissioners for considering this request very seriously, and to District Attorney Watkins and Assistant District Attorney David Alex for their many years of commitment and dedication to fighting animal cruelty in Dallas County.
Our next speaker is Ms. Jody Jones.
Sorry for that. Good morning. I'm Jody Jones. I'm the manager of Dallas Animal Services, 1818 Northwest Moreland, Dallas 75212. I come to this with over 20 years in the animal welfare industry, as well as many years in the enforcement investigation of animal laws and prosecution. I'm grateful for the opportunity to join with the Dallas community and asking for the County Commissioner's support for the forming of an animal cruelty prosecution unit of the Dallas County DA's office. This is one of the many needed tools to end the violent crimes in our community. The connection between animal cruelty cases and violent crimes has created a need for prosecuting attorneys to have resources to properly address incidents of animal cruelty in our community and hold offenders accountable. Cruelty investigations are a daily event in our community, and as a result, the resources need to be available, and they are being made available nationally. There are currently over 70 law schools offering animal law programs, as well as the American Bar Association has recognized and supported the forming of animal law committees in a large number of states. Additionally, both the national organizations supporting prosecuting attorneys have formed support units for animal cruelty prosecutors. This is not just an issue about animals. As a board member of the National Association for Prosecuting Attorneys Committee on Animal Cruelty, I am privileged to work alongside police chiefs, sheriffs, attorney generals, prosecutors, animal control representatives, national animal welfare agencies, veterinaries, all bring together resources to prosecuting attorneys throughout the nation. An equally impressive collection of literature substantiates the common sense idea that those who have a history of repeated acts of intentional violence towards animals are at a higher risk for exhibiting violent crimes in the future. There are actually studies that prove that violent offenders and sexual predators often reveal a high incident of animal cruelty offenses in their past. Likewise, a 2004 study revealed 70% of individuals convicted of animal cruelty will be convicted of violent or drug crimes within 10 years. Often these animal cruelty offenses are among the easiest to prove and carry some of the more serious consequences for the offenders. This is not just a win for those of us committed to animal welfare, but those of us who are committed to public safety. Thank you for your support of this, and we look forward to working with the Dallas County DA's office to help them support this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Yeah, our next speaker is Mr. James Bias.
My name is James Bias, 2400 Lone Star Drive in Dallas, and I'll try not to repeat what some of the other speakers have already said, but I'm the president for the SPCA of Texas here in Dallas, and I'm pleased to be here today to speak in favor of this animal cruelty unit within the district attorney's office. To give you a brief overview, the SPCA of Texas has been in Dallas for over 75 years, and we have seen significant numbers of animals go through our doors that have been subjected to awful abuse. We look forward to seeing this unit be able to pursue the specialized prosecution of these crimes. And over the years, we've seen firsthand the enormous value of partnering with law enforcement, local officials, and the general public to create a safer place for animals to live. I'm here to voice the SPCA of Texas' energetic support of the creation of a special unit in the District Attorney's Office to focus on investigation and prosecution of lawbreakers who neglect, cruelly treat, torture, and kill animals in Dallas County. Thanks to the Dallas County District Attorney's Office, Safer Dallas, Better Dallas, law enforcement, animal control agencies including Dallas Animal Services, and other agencies in Dallas County for their vision and leadership in bringing this before the Dallas County Commissioner Court. Thanks to Commissioner Dr. Elba Garcia for introducing this worthy effort, and thanks to Commissioner Maureen Dickey and her husband Roland for committing to make a generous donation to Safer Dallas, Better Dallas, and to help begin this precedent-setting effort. This is a huge step toward a safer, better place for all our animal friends in Dallas County.
Our next speaker is Ms. Yolanda Essenstein.
My name is Yolanda Eisenstein. My address is 1999 McKinney Avenue, Dallas, Texas. I'm a lawyer. I have an animal law practice here in Dallas. I teach animal law at SMU, and I'm chair-elect of the American Bar Association Animal Law Committee. I've also just written a chapter on animal law that's going to be published in a textbook in January. So I spend a lot of my time on this issue. All of us know instinctively that there's a connection between animal abuse and human abuse. It's been proven out with empirical evidence. What I want to do today is give you a few cases of 18 cases of how animal abuse and animal cruelty affects children. R.H., age 12, killed small animals that he took to school to frighten the children, and he threatened to shoot his mother. R.S., age 10, cruel and sadistic with his dogs, cats, and pony, notorious liar, belligerent and uncontrollable at school, aggressive with his siblings. R.B., age 12. Besides being cruel to any animal he could catch, he sets fires, mistreated a baby, and delighted in tormenting and hurting other people. M.E., age 9, obsessed with violence, killed 2 pets at age 4.5. I.B., age 10, crushed the heads of mice with a hammer and fed live birds to cats. He ripped an entire collection of tropical fish apart, attacked his teachers and classmates. This is the face of animal cruelty and what it can do to children. Now, obviously, there are other things that are going on with these children, but the one commonality in these 18 cases was animal cruelty. So possibly by intervening, or by intervening in their parents' cruelty, we could have stopped this. So I just want to make the point that it's not just about the animals, and I love animals. For me, doing it for the animals is enough. But for those of us who need more, there's a human cost. And this is just one of them, and how it can affect children. Thank you.
I'm sorry I butchered your name there.
Oh, that's okay. Most people call me Einstein.
Well, I'll call you Einstein.
Call me Einstein.
Our next speaker is Miss Elaine Munch.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Munch, and I live at 3362 Merrill Road in Dallas, Texas, 75229. I'm the president of the Metroplex Animal Coalition, and on behalf of the member groups, I want to thank the county commissioners and Judge Jenkins for considering this issue. I especially want to thank Dr. Elba Garcia, Muchísimas gracias, Dr. Garcia, the District Attorney Craig Watkins, and Assistant District Attorney David Alex for working to make this animal cruelty unit a reality. And I'd like to thank the Dickey family for their generous contribution as well. I'd like to put some things in perspective, much as Yolanda did. I'd like to share a quote from the President of the Humane Society of the United States, Wayne Caselli, in his new book, the bond, our kinship with animals, our call to defend them. He says, diminishing the intelligence of others has always been a strategy to justify oppression and cruelty, and at the very least to divert one's moral responsibility. We've seen it used for centuries to downgrade the moral worth of animals, but it's also been invoked to justify plenty of human wrongs, whether perpetuating slavery, denying rights to women or minorities, or locking away the mentally ill. But let me remind us of something that we all know to be true in our hearts instinctively. And that is to mistreat or abuse an animal is simply beneath us as human beings. It is dishonorable and it merits the most serious contempt. We have a duty and an obligation to ensure that cruelty is rare and punishable by severe penalties. By dedicating this unit to this particular crime, you're sending a message to those who diminish the value of animals in our society and our community. And we thank you for this effort.
I believe that is all the speakers that signed up.
No, Ms. Susan Oki.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Oki, I do apologize, Susan Oki.
Hi, my name is Susan Oki. I live at 444 Mayland Drive in Dallas, and I'm here on behalf of myself and on behalf of Animal Connection in Texas, a local nonprofit. And we really, I can't thank you enough for your support, and we really encourage your support of this wonderful endeavor. We call them hope, justice, mercy. They were abused, beaten, burned. They were more than innocent animals who were tortured. They are a symbol of what is wrong in our community. We are all safer when their tormentors are brought to justice. Thank you for this endeavor. Special thanks to our champion, Dr. Elba Garcia, and to District Attorney Craig Watson and Assistant DA David Alex and his hardworking staff, and to State for Dallas, Better Dallas, and Commissioner Green Dickey and Jackson Nolan. Thank you so much for your awesome support of this endeavor. You are speaking out for those who have no voice. You are our heroes.
That is our last speaker that signed up on that topic. Any discussion on this topic?
Judge, I did want to recognize Charles Terrell, the Safe Dallas, Better Dallas. He is here. He's been Charles, go ahead and stand up. He's been very instrumental in the community with regards to police needs and things like that. So we really appreciate what you give back to the community. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you for your friendship of many years. We admire all you do, and I know you support this program very much, and will continue to.
Thank you. Judge, I just want to say, that I am very honored to be, pushing this initiative, with all of you, with the District Attorney's Office, and of course, with Mr. Craig Watkins, Mr. Alex, and all his staff. And I want to recognize that is me, Rachel Jones, for all your hard work. I know you're all here. And of course, this is the way that really public-private partnerships work. And we know that in the city of Dallas and Dallas County have made a difference. Better Dallas, Safer Dallas, my champions here, the Honorable Charles Terrell, Jack Hammond, and my friend Gary Griffith, have been in the forefront of public safety. And I don't want to elaborate what it has already been said. This is about public safety. This is about the future of public safety. And I'm just going to mention that, this year, till November 28th, there were more than 2,841 reports through the city of Dallas only, about animal cruelty. And this is not acceptable. And I think that the message, that the Dallas District Attorney's Office and all of us want to say is that this animal cruelty will not be tolerated in Dallas County, and that we're ready to move forward, with initiatives and coalitions that have not been done before. And that's what I'm so proud, and I want to thank all our speakers today, because I know that I can speak for Scripture Involved, Johnny England, James Bias, Elaine Monch, Susan Oki, Jody Jones, and Joanna Einstein. that have been for over 20 years, and I see my friend Angie's here today, you know, for over 20 years, fighting constantly to make Texas, you know, not only the forefront, but after being the last one when it came to animal rights and animal rights. And, you know, as you all know, you got your briefing last week, colleagues. You have here stated the mission that you have been reading as well. You know, you have the goals, the challenges, the overview, and you all read, you know, all the documents that are presented to you. And of course, the main issue is to hire an attorney and investigator that will be totally allocated to this cause. And that is the big step. We're ready to be in the forefront. We're ready to say this animal cruelty is not acceptable. And the district attorney's office, thank you so much, you know, for being with us and to say for Dallas, better Dallas. What a better partnership. You have been there making a difference when it comes to raising money to, you know, for public safety. And I know you've done it once, and we're going to do it again. I want to clear some of the questions, you know, if I'm allowed, Judge. The position will not be hired until we have the $200,000, Mr. Brown.
Right.
Okay, and of course, we expect that to be as soon as possible. And then, you know, we have the data. The main thing is to have the data to be sure that this continues to be a permanent unit within the district attorney's office. It definitely, I believe that it will be, and that's exactly what we're going to show. And I knew, colleagues, that if I came before you all with a proposal that had no data, hey, you had all the right to say, you know, Dr. Garcia, thank you, but no thank you. And that's why, you know, we outreach to say for Dallas, better Dallas. I knew they could make it happen, and I knew all of you, you know, can help us raise the $200,000 that we need to put this unit together. And of course, I'm very proud and very thankful of my colleague, Commissioner Maureen Dickey, her family, her husband, Roland, you know, for coming forward as the first big donors of this initiative. We can do it without you. And we're open for any questions. And colleagues,
Well, Commissioner Dickey, I just want to thank Commissioner Garcia. I just want to thank you for your vision and leadership. You continue to excel, especially through CJAC, on working on those issues, dealing with our overall criminal justice system. And this is a model, you know, with Safer Dallas, Better Dallas, that we can all look at on how to do things in the future, especially as our budgets continue to dwindle. So thank you for your leadership on that. And Commissioner Dickey, thank you for the donation. And Roland, thank you.
And I want to second that. Thank you both for your leadership, Commissioner Garcia and Commissioner Dickey, and for the donation in getting this started. You know, this is a quality of life issue. Somebody said, well, if the animals aren't enough, it leads to other things. The animals are enough. The animals are so important to the lives of our citizens. My Aunt Barb is 70 some odd years old, lost her husband, former Dallas police officer, a few years ago, and the thing that keeps her going is taking care of their now aged dog Khaki. And Khaki is so much a part of that family. And that's not a special story. I would think the majority of people in this room, either themselves or their loved one, has an integral part of the family that is an animal. So what we're doing here is important. I would also challenge our police departments and our investigators and our animal control officers. It's great to be able to have someone dedicated to this, but that only works if the cases get there. We need to change behaviors in the way animals are treated by people and the way animals are restrained. It's not just about future serial killers, burning dogs. There's animal abuse going on a lesser but a tormenting scale all over the city and all over this county as we speak today. So good thing that the two of you are leading us on, and I appreciate it.
Mr. Rocky, let's see Mr. Alex and see if you don't mind. I'd just like to know how many cockfighting prosecutions have you done? You come on. You know, and I understand, cockfighting, they're gonna prosecute. I just really know that's called.
Prosecutions on cockfighting commissioners today, since I've been handling it, probably have numbered about 10 to 12. The challenges with cockfighting cases really come from people like Skip Trimble in creating the laws that allow us to prosecute those cases. Up until probably a couple of years ago, you could have a cockfight going on down the street. If the police don't actually see it happen, they can roll up on it afterwards, so they know the cops were fighting, the people were spending money, narcotics and everything was being sold, but we couldn't prosecute those cases. And we now, through partnership with people like Skip Trimble and the police departments, are able to prosecute those cases more effectively. And I think a unit like this will be able to interface with that. We'll probably see more of those prosecutions. You'd be surprised at how many of them actually happen within city limits and not.
I'm very aware that you're asking. So of the cases that you're prosecuting, the majority of them are going to be, dogs, cats.
I think probably what we'll see is a spike, Commissioner, in the cases we're prosecuting, and the spike will come from people who are comfortable calling in on the type of cases that Mr. Jenkins is talking about. I think currently you've got a ping pong effect. You saw an animal being abused next door, you call 911, they send you to 311, 311 sends you to services, animal services calls the police, and the people in the community get a little discouraged when they start calling. I think with the message we're sending now, the community will have a little more confidence when they call and ask for assistance in these. And they don't have to be burning with dogs. They can simply be cases where people need to be re-educated into the sensitive matters of our poor legislation.
I think the thing that struck Rowan and myself the most was a TV show on Channel 8, a news clip that talked about a horse that was neglected and starving in Lancaster, I believe, and people would drive by and see that horse starving. The horse couldn't stand up, finally had to be carried off, and the owner did nothing. And we just don't have the tools to be able to know who to call or have a point of reference. I want to brag on our district attorney. When David, Alex, and I met one day and we talked about animal prosecution, I got really excited about it, and I was so impressed with you, David, because you're a guy that prosecutes capital murder cases, and yet the DA has been kind enough to take you off of some of those big cases in order to prosecute cases such as the Mercy case. You're a man that loves animals and really has your heart there. And I want to really express appreciation to our DA, who's willing to step out of the paradigm and do something that will be a model for the country. And even though Harris County has done it, we'll learn from that model. We won't try to invent the wheel. But we in Dallas have never done this before, and I'm so proud that you're willing to do this and put the resources into it. Now we need to raise the $200,000. Roland and I planning the seed money, but we need to raise that money. We're lucky to have Commissioner Garcia because I'm leaving. I'm yesterday's news, but she's going to keep it going and be a strong advocate for us. And we need to have an animal court, and I hope that Commissioner Garcia and I can work with the legislature to get a court for animal cruelty. Because we have all these people who are working in the grassroots people. I throw away ponies. I see horses that are abused. Karen, I see you there. I see some people here that go out and they go out on calls where animals are being neglected, and they have to literally put their lives on the line to sneak out there to rescue animals. I see people that do all kinds of rescue, and we're so fortunate to have you. But what we can do is help complete that circle and have the prosecution and have the means where somebody could call and know where to call, and it will get prosecuted. Thank you, Mr. Watkins.
Thank you.
Take us through the briefing.
Yeah, sure. We have a number of other speakers.
We have a number of other speakers. I'd like to try to get through that as quickly as we can.
We have a plan of address conference, and it probably won't take more than 20 minutes.
Well, I need to check with and get unanimous support from the other commissioners on that. Do I have unanimous support?
Can you legally? You see people on the wall. You see people on the wall.
Yeah. That's another option. We could, there need not be a quorum for speakers. There'll be no further action or lessons action out of our executive session. So if the two of you would like to do that, that's an option. Do that?
Well, we got people who've been waiting out of the hallway.
Yeah, go ahead, and I'll tell you what, let's take so you can leave and do that, and there may be cameras that want to go with you, I don't know. We're going to take a 2-minute break. 2 minutes to move to wherever we do, and we'll continue on. And our next public speaker will be Mr. Zulu.
Please find our seats.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. All right, if everyone will please return your seats if you choose to sit down. We'll continue on with the public speaker section of our meeting. Our first speaker is Mr. Zumba Lumpex. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Brother. My name is Chief Administrator for Zuma Wagyu Ranch, Chief of the Texas African Afro-American Igbo Tribe. Discovered 1987, founding chief. I'm here today because I was in jail for a month for defending my life. I feared for my life. I was coming from the grocery store there for groceries, and I got jumped on, kicked, and booed over and over. And I tried to defend my life, and I went to jail for a month. Been out about 2 weeks now. But when I'm here for today, I met a lot of guys in jail when I was there. And I got sick on the food in the jail. Ramen noodles, you said the prices are comparable, compared to the price in the store, but similar to the outside as the charge that comes here. Ramen noodles, 12 pack one for $2.20 since the Walmart. We pay 96 for a barrel of ramen noodles. 5 for $1, some places 6 for $1, some Fiesta stores. 1 for $1 when I can get 6 for $1. Ramen noodles not right, that's not comparable. One guy told about he was eating in the store, he got banned from the store for a year, he was hungry. You can't see a doctor when you need to see one. I had some cream, they told me from a bit of light over the ordered, but they never gave it to me. Job rehabilitation guys when they served their time, and they couldn't get jobs, and they said, well, I guess we'll end up back here. I talked to them. Raising girl, I was scratched off the raising list. Maybe they thought someone was playing and no one had a name like Osuma Wagalula. They scratched the name out. I couldn't get a raisin. I finally got Mr. Hernandez to give me a raisin after I asked to speak to some people. Gloves, I couldn't get me gloves because I wanted to clean the bathroom without gloves because of the age they wouldn't give me the gloves. Next day I got some violent. Visitation, they took me off the visitation list. I walked out, it's okay for me. I went back in the cell. They called me back out for rehabilitation because they had misplaced the list. Cursing was not needed. I was cursed in 1964 when I joined the military. They made a dry shave and did a shave. So it didn't bother me, it just bothered me to think that they thought that was the proper way to do things. Guilty until proven innocent, that's what we are. We should not be abused. We should be charged by a jury or jury on appeal to make a decision whether we are guilty or innocent. But, you know, a lot of things happen to me and I know what's right. So, you know, I guess a lot of things, we don't have a supervision for our kids, a lot of people get in trouble. But, you know, we got to do better. I was just looking at Great Britain, how they would start off the program without a pen. I think in America today, we have more people with criminal records than we do that don't have it. So what would happen if all the criminals get together today? Just like a lot of my friends I work with at Marriott, when I was bartender, Louisiana told I was bartender, Radisson Hotel, I was professional bartender, and a lot of my friends were gay. And they decided to come out and they did a good job on what they were doing, they got what they wanted. But I'm just saying, I couldn't say a doctor, I was treated wrong, that shouldn't be. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Price, I want to thank you for the help you've given me through your office. God bless you all, all praise be to God, God rules, not man. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you.
The call only because we use the internet. First of all, I want to say the county does not sell wrongly. I mean, we don't sell the commissary. It is offered on the commissary. Okay, so that's not part of our diet.
But they say the price would come in the store. That's what I'm saying.
But we don't understand. And we have a contract about it, but we don't sell so that if somebody.
I got written on the price.
I got it. We don't sell on it. Number two, on terms of our medical kites, we are audited with regards to those kites by the Texas Commission on Jail Standards. And anytime anyone drops a medical kite, we get it into the various outlets. And when they come in and they do an overview, they take and audit us. So they know not only when they drop, they know their response time. Well, with regards to vitiligo, I understand. They don't have that expertise.
They offered to give it a credit.
They don't have that
I didn't
expertise.
ask for it.
They don't have that expertise in the jail.
They told me they did.
Excuse me, I'm telling you they don't. I've been there, done that. They don't have it. And so as a result, you know, you have to do outside in terms of, you know, in those kinds of things. So I just want to bring it up.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Gene Helmick Richardson. Dr. Gene Helmick Richardson.
I think he left.
Because of the press conference, I think a lot of people don't know there's no other speakers.
Okay, well, if you could alert them, Ms. Land, because if we get done with this and they haven't spoken, they'll miss their opportunity for today. So if they would like to speak to the court, this is their opportunity.
Well, we did.
Well, it's just confusing because y'all called everybody outside.
No, we didn't.
No, we
We said we were going to stay in here and let them go out.
He's coming.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Gene Helmick Richardson.
My apologies, I was caught in a media crush out there. My name is Dr. Louis Gene Helmick Richardson, and I'm here to speak to the Commission on Beryl Spring
and you all know my opinion on aerial spraying. If you don't, meet me outside and I'll give you an earful. I come today mainly to request three things. This is all I really want. I would like to have the raw data for the tracking that was done before and after aerial spraying. I think Zach or Jimmy Warner, somebody can give me that data. It can be emailed to me. I can have it in any form. I respectfully request that data for analysis of my own. Secondly, I'd like the epidemiological data. Dr. Chung, we have since 2003 almost 10 years of data on West Nile virus, its outbreak, and the seasonal nature of said outbreak. And I'd like to have just summaries of that data. And lastly, I know that Dr. Schneider and the Dallas County Medical Association was very involved in declaring this emergency, which resulted in aerial spraying. I would respectfully request transcript or at least even recordings of the meeting that I don't know who all was invited to, but I'd like to know that resulted in the aerial spraying. I assume CDC was there, Dr. Leahy was there, who with the CDC and such, and what was discussed, because obviously there was some threshold that was reached that resulted in this declaration of emergency. And I'd like to know what the thresholds are so that we can avoid those thresholds in the future. This kind of information is critical and crucial to preventing this from happening again. And that's the kind of information that I would like. I know that everyone speaks about the safety of the chemicals involved, and I'm here to declare that the EPA says you cannot say that. Scientifically, nothing is safe. Everything has a risk and a benefit. And I know that it was a risk not only to the citizens of Dallas, but it was a risk to those six-legged animals, which we must protect as much as our four-legged animals.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miss Andrea Biffle. Miss Andrea Biffle. Our next speaker is Mr. Sean Lamore. Mr. Sean Lamore.
Morning, my name is Sean Lamore, 612 Penrose, Dallas, Texas, 75214. Some of you may remember me from the last time we talked about West Nile virus. I want to come here and thank Commissioner Judge Jenkins and Mr. Thompson for what I think was an outstanding job. And I'd also like to put a face, apply a face to what West Nile virus does. I'm the only 36-year-old at the time that I know that got West Nile. I haven't met anybody else quite like me, but I've met a whole lot of people in the West Nile survivors. Let me give you a little example of my day. This morning I started out with my ENT, which is one of the 5 doctors that I get to see now that help keep me alive. ENT thinks I probably have pneumonia, asked me to go immediately to my doctor to get a chest x-ray. But considering there are some people in this city that believe that aerial spraying is not appropriate under certain circumstances, I felt that it was probably a little bit better use of my time to come here and give you an example of what West Nile virus really does look like. You know, I understand that people have concerns, but taking aerial spraying off of the table is foolish. I can't prove that correlation is causation, but I can tell you that West Nile virus spikes usually in August, and it dropped after we started aerial spraying. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy who actually got impacted by West Nile virus. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ms. Cindy Ware. And Mr. Warren, good luck to you. Ms. Cindy Ware. Ms. Cindy Ware. All right, our next speaker is Ms. Jennifer Stewart. Ms. Jennifer Stewart.
I'm Jennifer Stewart, 4626 West Amherst Avenue, Dallas. I just listened to the last gentleman, and certainly I think West Nile is a terrible thing, and we're not advocating that we don't treat that. We obviously want to find a better way to get rid of mosquitoes, and nobody should have any kind of illness. I'm just a regular person. I'm not a scientist, and I've listened to everything, and I agree that the mosquito dunks seem to be very effective. I put them in my rain barrels, and if I have any standing water, it seems like those surely must be less expensive than a great big program of planes and lots of chemicals. People could have jobs going around distributing the mosquito dunks or the granules that citizens could put in their bird baths and standing water in ponds. Last summer, the cities of Burleson, Sherman, and University Park had programs to distribute those products to their citizens. So it seemed Dallas could have a much bigger impact as being a larger city than those are to get rid of the mosquito larvae so they don't hatch into adult mosquitoes. I observed a display in October at the Green Dallas event. The city of Dallas had a table where they were explaining the benefits of the BT granules and dunks, and they had a little bowl of gamusa fish and talking about how great they were at consuming mosquito larvae. So that was encouraging that the city had that interest. The county shares that interest and could maybe put some of those ideas into work. Apparently, I learned it's also possible to apply the BT larvicide by some aerial method, which would cover large bodies of water. Unfortunately, the adulticide spray kills adult mosquitoes, which is great, but then a few days later the larvae hatch out, and then there's more mosquitoes, you just spray it again and again and again. And it just seems logical that if we could kill the larvae, then they don't ever grow up to be adult mosquitoes, and we've kind of nipped that in the bud. Again, I'm not a scientist, but that seems logical to me. It does work in my yard. I'd like to see that on a larger scale and be more targeted to specific populations of the mosquito life cycle rather than just random spray from airplanes and trucks, and we hope something flies through it and is killed. Thank you.
Ms. Virginia Cooper. Ms. Virginia Cooper. Ms. Virginia Cooper. Next person is Mr. Kelly Nash.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Nash.
Oh, pull that mic up just a little bit. Yeah, just a little more, Mr. Nash. Thank you.
Kelly Nash, 6327 Bedford. I'm an environmental manager. I came to Dallas 32 years ago to get a job with the EPA as an environmental manager in the federal government, in the industry, and consulting. Since then, I'm representing just my family who live in East Dallas and we like it here. I was opposed to aerial spraying in August, and I'm opposed to aerial spraying on a preemptive basis in 2013. But I understand why it happened. And I know that the media likes to portray people against aerial spraying on one side and West Nile victims on the other side, and that's really a false division. I live in the zip code with the highest cases in the county, and I want the county have the best program we can. I know that the program of integrated pest management includes aerial spraying, but it includes it as the last resort and as the nuclear option. And I'm worried that we reached for that last year and we might reach for it easier next year, and I would like to do what I can to prevent that if we can. I work at EPA. We had a toxicologist tell us about 30 years ago that the thing about toxic chemicals is that it always turns out to be worse than we thought. The standards continually go down. Safe level of lead in soil used to be 1,000 parts per million, now it's about 10. One of the chemicals that concerns me on the adulticide is the synergist, the piperenol butoxide. That gets into streams, increases the toxicity of any pyrethroids that are already present in stream sediments. So those are the kind of recent findings that will result in that safe level going down and down and down. One of the things that surprised me, like many people in August, was the number of people saying that this was perfectly safe. The thing I thought was housing may kill bugs, and it's perfectly safe. There's a vulnerable population in Dallas to exposures, pregnant women, people with suppressed immune systems, and there probably some proportion, well, I know there was a proportion of those people that were affected. And that number of people will just go up if we get into some kind of a chemical arms race with mosquitoes. So I'm encouraged by what I hear today with the hiring of 2 epidemiologists. I just hope we don't go with the nuclear option
microbiology. Thank you. Mr. Matt Patrick.
Good morning. Matt Patrick, 7108 Avenue, Ohio. I'm a member of the Citizens Election Advisory Committee. The stated mission is to assist in the determination of election policy in the future and evaluate performance of the Dallas County election system in major elections.
Okay. Can you pull it a little closer?
Yeah, sorry. I don't have a more major election for just a long. Last week, this court said that the elections department did a good job. I'm not sure how you know that, since SEAC hasn't met yet after this election. We've only met twice in the past 2 years. Are you taking the word of the person who runs the department, the elections administrator? You say that elections will run well, will run properly. I think there's a conflict of interest there. I think that's something we all should be able to see. After all, that's the reason that SEAC was created in 1999. There are many problems with the election that are already known, or may come to light. We can give you just a few examples that I'm already aware of through my contacts and having worked the elections both on election day and during the voting. People from out of the county were allowed to vote. Judges fraudulently voted abandoned ballots. There's a hostile work environment created by several of the judges. There was, in fact, an assault on an election worker by an early voting judge. There was coaching the voters in the voting booth. The arbitrary seal on the back of the early voting machines were tampered with in some instances. There was voter intimidation, including, in particular, bothersome to me, against minority women. There are precincts that voted more than 100% of their registered voters, similar to the problems that they had in Florida. There was wrong information given to the judges and alternate judges about their duties and about their locations. And the material that they needed was not delivered to them, was not delivered to them timely. There were changes made to the election process by Tony Pickens' pool that were inefficient and cost the county more money. Her estimate of staffing needs was unorganized, and it was too low. It necessitated last-minute scrambles to adequately staff and run early voting. The election techs need more help. The delay in processing early voting results caused a lot of overtime for the county. Given this dismal performance, how then, or why then, was the election administrator given a 27% raise this week? I don't see how you could have possibly done that. I don't see what criteria you might have been using to both applaud her performance last week and to applaud the performance of the elected party and then reward her when her performance had not yet been reviewed.
Our next speaker is Ms. Jennifer Land. Oh, it's actually, Ms. Land, you can come forward, but it's actually Rickman area, but I'll get him next time.
Okay. I have some handouts.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Williams, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I know we were here last week, but we wanted the opportunity to speak to the full court. I was really moved by, I believe it was Mr. Lamone talking about his experience with West Nile, and I can speak to the experience of having a vector-borne illness. I had Lyme disease and got that when I was 21 years old, and it completely altered the trajectory of my life. I went from straight A college student with a promising career at a national magazine in New York, running 7 miles a day, to being bedridden and having to crawl to the bathroom. It's taken me 15 excruciatingly long years to get to this podium. My doctor told me she's never seen anybody as sick as me recover to the point that I am. I'm personally back in school again, trying to get a rehabilitation counseling degree, but that's been put on hold because I can't do an internship as long as there's a threat of aerial spraying. I can't begin doing that because I won't be able to leave my home. I was treated in an Austin emergency room with a pyrethroid injury, but that's documented in the report, and I'm still recovering from a hand tremor and some of the effects that resulted. And the attending physician said that he regularly treats those idiopathic nervous system reactions in patients who have left Houston and been affected by the aerial spraying there. I'm also here to speak to another group, and that is children. In a groundbreaking publication released this past month, PAN North America reviewed dozens of studies establishing strong links between early life pesticide exposure and many of the exploding childhood epidemics, including lower IQ, ADHD, autism, delayed development, childhood cancer, metabolic disorders, diabetes, and even childhood obesity. And just this past week, the American Academy of Pediatrics released a groundbreaking report offering a stern warning to limit pesticide exposure in children because of the alarming epidemiological evidence demonstrating associations between childhood exposure to pesticides and pediatric cancer, decreased cognitive function, and behavioral problems. So we're literally seeing this data rise to the surface. I have full faith that you guys made this decision out of respect for public health and with the information that you had at the time. But I ask you respectfully to consider all the data as it comes in. And I feel like that one thing that Dr. Jean Richardson, who's an entomologist, has spoken to is that most of the pressure to spray came from physicians, which is not their scope of practice. The practice of controlling mosquitoes is for entomologists, not for physicians to decide. And I respect their concern of wanting something to stop the spread of West Nile, and we want to seek the experts that know how to control mosquitoes. I'd also like to talk a little bit more about some of these studies. Research shows children are particularly vulnerable to pesticide exposure because they breathe twice as much pollutants as adults, have more contact with pesticide residues, have more permeable skin, and have a less capacity to toxify pesticides. The state of Connecticut banned pesticides in school because of this increased vulnerability, and also because the research did not show it lowered transmission of Lyme disease. And we feel the same research is not really documented which slows the transmission.
And Ms. Lamb, if you would, if you have an extra copy of that, if you give it to Cheryl Warren and the two women on the back row that are raising their hands. For anyone on this, I am interested in particularly in electronic form, because it's the easiest for me to forward, and any information that you have that it would be relevant to the entomologist and the scientist at the state, the county, and the federal government, we'll forward that without comment and ask them to review that. I'm not a scientist, and I don't have a preconceived bias towards how we handle our mosquito plan next year. I simply want to get all the information to the experts at the state, federal, and local level and, you know, get a recommendation. So if you do that, and it's best if it can be electronic, because if we scan it, something gets messed up, some of the pages are hard to read.
You mean the data I just gave you?
The data you just gave me, if you could email that, that'd be awesome. Same thing with medical records from people, written, you know, that they're comfortable sharing, redacted, whatever. Written data is helpful. They don't need to convince me of their point, because I'm just waiting for the scientists to tell me, well, what the data shows. Okay? Thank you.
Can I also know, in the data I gave you, there's comments from Larry Boyd where he says, by reviewing the data of the mosquito kill numbers here and when that spraying occurred and the transmission of the virus, that it does not show that the spraying affected the transmission of the virus. So if you could review that.
Okay, I'll sit. I wouldn't be qualified to review Mr. Boyd's opinions versus others, but I will send those to the CDC and the state. They are looking into the matter and doing an exhaustive study of it. So they'll have his comments. Next is Ms. Marie today.
Excuse me, so you called Rick Maria?
Oh, I apologize. You're absolutely right. Thank you. Marie, if you'll just give us a second, I've skipped somebody. It was Rick.
Rick
Damaris, I apologize.
Let me just say quickly, last, like the previous presentation, is actually
I'm sorry. We don't allow people to not come and have their presentation read. He can come at another time, though. You can sign up to speak at another time, but we've got to follow submit his. Or you could submit it to us, and it can be a part of the permanent record. If that would work. We've got to follow our rules. So if you want to submit it, we can make it a part of the record. We just can't take up time to read it for the person who didn't come. But if he's sick today, wants to come another day, or have you come sign up and then read it another day, we can do that.
I'm sorry, respectfully,
Yeah.
last week I came in because the place of someone who wasn't able to make it, and you guys changed me the opportunity. So it would be equally fair if you allowed her to share this.
See, last week we didn't have a quorum.
Yeah. Last week we had pretty relaxed rules, and we were trying to be accommodating to the group with all the confusion of whether or not we were going to have a quorum. But we've got to follow our rules. It's not in respect to the person who's sick or who's close. It's just a matter of we've got to follow the rules. Certainly next week that person can come, or you can submit it in writing, or you can sign up and speak about it next week. Our next, we had somebody that I skipped. Who was that? Oh, that was that person. I beg your pardon.
Yes.
All right, so our next speaker is Miss Marie today.
Marie today, I reside at 4710 Pioneer Road in Walsh Springs. So I've seen in the media that certain members of this court are having doubts believing individuals like me who were sickened by pesticides sprayed from trucks or airplanes this past summer. Interesting. Are we liars? Hypochondriacs? Granted, the nurse at Poison Control Center dismissed me too, refusing to make a report, even though I told her I developed symptoms within 30 seconds of exposure to heavy ground spraying. Respectfully, Mr. Price, ground spraying needs to be reviewed. Symptoms apparently not on her list. She said these pesticides were safe for humans. Oh, really? I wonder if these same people would have been on the side of doubting that the world was round, or that smoking cigarettes was unhealthy and can cause heart disease and lung cancer. Sometimes science takes time to catch up with reality. Why is it so hard to believe that some people would suffer symptoms and become sickened by exposure to pesticides designed to be poisonous to nerve cells? Some of these people had previous toxic chemical poisoning and they know what those symptoms are. A previous official Dallas County public comment It's going to take what it takes, and rumors including, but not limited to, preemptive aerial spraying certainly don't make it sound like anyone here is listening to what's being said. Let's play a game. How many chemicals has one department or another of the U.S. government declared safe, then recalled, because further studies concluded that indeed it was not safe after all? Tobacco. Well, this is still on the shelf, but as long as there's a label stating that it'll kill you, I guess that's okay. Let's not forget secondhand smoke. DDT, asbestos, lead, benzene, mercury, Agent Orange, triclosan, and phthalates. Those last two were pulled by Johnson & Johnson, who finally saw the light, or felt the heat. Methyl iodide, aka Midas, another neurotoxic pesticide used as a soil fumigant for tomatoes, peppers, nuts, and strawberries. And don't even get me started on the laundry list of pharmaceuticals that have killed thousands upon thousands of Americans before being recalled. This has to stop. We don't need to be test rats in Dallas County. Our country often rushes into approving things tested and declared safe by the stakeholders of the products for the sake of profit at the expense of Americans' health. We all know somebody made a lot of money off of last summer's declared epidemic, which by definition, affecting or tending to affect a disproportionately large number of individuals within a population or community at the same time, kind of like typhoid was an epidemic. Farmers may tend to lean towards being better safe than sorry, but when you drive a tractor, handle 1,000-pound animals, use a chainsaw, or any of the plethora of other activities that cross the path of a farmer, you tend to lean that way. So why is it then, when approaching the safety, welfare, and health of millions of constituents, is caution seemingly cast aside?
Not this Friday, it's a week.
What if county workers donned a backpack sprayer, walked hotspot areas with something that killed mosquitoes, but didn't sicken people or animals or the ecosystem? Wouldn't this be a much smarter, more progressive and liberal approach to our issue? Can't we be leaders instead of followers? Come on, Dallas County.
Thank you.
Judge Jenkins, you have the power to do this the right way.
Thank you. We got to follow our rules. Our next speaker is Miss Stephanie Sigan. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed Brandon. Our next speaker is Mr. Brandon Pollard. You can go out of order. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you guys. Yeah. Go ahead, Brandon.
Good morning, good afternoon, this afternoon. Very grateful to once again have the opportunity to speak in one more of the commissioners here at the court today. So, Ms. Rowell, sweat healing for your wife, and thank you for being here to listen to our concerns. I'm here to speak on animal cruelty. Dallas County, with this past West Nile incident with aerial and ground spraying, has eradicated a lot of my animals. I'm a beekeeper. I may not be a scientist, but I'm a citizen scientist. Dallas is my laboratory, and I'm trying to keep my animals alive. I've lost countless bees. We've been getting ground sprayed since June 15th, and I was given a survey to be included on a survey that would help to figure out what we've lost with aerial spraying. Well, we've been getting sublethal doses of synthetic pyrethroid since the 15th of June, which is first sprayed from the ground from a truck in South Dallas where we have some of our bees. It's very interesting that I've gotten requests, being a citizen scientist that I am, requests from doctors and scientists asking me how our bees are. And I'll tell you, we've lost countless bees. A doctor friend of mine who actually, oddly enough, we do take care of some of their bees onto their property, was pointing out that the bees that were there on their property, there wasn't any harm done to those bees. And this is something to seriously consider, and I'm very grateful to hear that we're not considering Sacramento's plan, because Sacramento, they have rice paddies, and Dallas has skyscrapers, and we have the largest urban hardwood canopy in America. This is certainly a consideration when you're talking about the interruption of droplets. We're talking about hitting a bug from a plane. And you're not going to hit a bug from a plane when we have the largest urban hardwood forest in America. Some of our bees at the doctor's property were underneath that canopy. My bees are subject not only to the direct spray and to what is the so-called benign agitation, I would consider it much more mortal agitation. If this chemical that is being sprayed on us is going to bring my bees out of its boxes to kill them, I have to seriously consider my ability to continue to integrate and to support life as best I can. This certainly is not a question of humans or honeybees. We have some of our honey customers that are surviving West Nile virus, some of our food writers that are surviving West Nile virus. And with all due respect, I'm trying to keep them alive just as much as I am my wife, who has been severely coughing since the middle of June. I would like to seriously consider that this aggressive idea of a mosquito district with preemptive aerial spraying for West Nile virus is unnecessary, it's expensive. We could save a lot of lives, and that would include the eradication of some of my animals. And I think that Dallas County should adopt a very aggressive stance on the protection of animals and honeybees here in Dallas County. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Stephanie Senior.
And while she's coming, I have not heard nobody that I know is contemplating, first of all, a district, mosquito district.
That's correct.
Okay, so I've never heard that, number one. Ms. Today and Ms. Paul, I've been chairman of the PHAC for the last 12 years, and I have not heard from anyone before this year with regards to ground spreading. We've always had a plan, we've always had a ground assault plan, rather than sit back and do nothing. And so all I'm saying to you is that I have not heard from you. I'm here every day, 7 days a week. I have not heard from you at all. And I'm at all of my meetings. I may have missed one PHAC in 12 years. And all I'm saying to you is that while I understand, I'm with you on the aerial spraying, but I've never heard any commentary, even with regards to what we're utilizing in terms of pesticide with regards to our ground assault. So I'm putting that on the record because we are on the record. Okay? Thank you.
Can I ask a question on that note?
Sure.
Will it affect my time?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. Does not affect your time.
Thank you. Personally, I didn't.
Long as you don't comment, I'm not what I was talking about. So just, if you want to give your name and start, that's fine.
Wait, I don't understand.
Why don't we do this? Let's go ahead and hear your prepared remarks. And then if after we're done with the prepared remarks, I concur with Commissioner Price. If this is helpful to your group to understand this, if Commissioner Price and I or all the commissioners were of a mind to create a mosquito control district and take over from the cities, we would not have the power to do so. Really, your speeches would need to be made to the legislature, but I'm not familiar with any legislation attempting to do that. So if that's a concern, that we'll have a Hawaii or California type mosquito control district, no one has advocated for that yet. Now, it may be that a bill is filed, but I've talked to no one who has an interest in filing such a bill.
Plus the voters have to vote it in. Just to create it.
There are a variety of steps that others would take, and before it would ever come to us, none of those things are happening. Now, is it possible that the state or the county or the CDC is going to come up with some plan that you disagree with, or some components of a study that you're going to disagree with? Possibly so, but that hasn't been done yet. But the idea that will lead, that there's any sort of a move on our part or anybody else's part to, without public input, put into place a mosquito control plan, can't happen. You got to have legislation passed by the legislature, signed by the governor, voted on by the majority, and there's not even a move to do that.
We do have a plan, not a district. There's a difference. We do have a mosquito plan.
But let's get through this, and y'all can visit more about that afterwards. Please give us your comments.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie Giannetto, and I live at 719 Country Meadow in Richardson. And I'll just kind of incorporate my comments. You mentioned that you've been truck spraying for however many months, years.
2004.
Okay, so personally, I am 28. I read every single night, and I had no idea that there were trucks being sprayed. Call it naivety, call it misinformed media. I have no idea, but I had no clue. So how am I supposed to link any symptoms or anything going on to any sort of pyrethroids or pesticides if I can't prove that there's any correlation because I didn't know it existed? That's one of the problems with the population of people in this room protesting aerial spraying because people simply don't know how to correlate any sort of symptoms to any sort of pesticide exposure or the like. There's just not enough information given to us. There's not enough information given to people in general. The CDC has all over their websites that it is not safe, no pesticide is safe. They put that in bold writing, no pesticide is safe. So for anyone to be saying that it's safe is just ludicrous. And I am just absolutely irate because I've got a 5-year-old little girl that is my absolute joy. And to consider that in 5 years there may be a food crisis because all of our bees are dying or we have some sort of major issue there, just breaks my heart. I don't want to have nightmares about my child playing outside with a gas mask on to prevent all of the assaults that's going on for, West Nile. And I'm sorry, but the immunosuppressed people and the individuals that could potentially get sick, yes, that's alarming and it's scary, but there is immunity. Our immune systems work for that, and there's different, ways we can handle this. You can take your millions of dollars that you use for aerial spraying and pass out free bottles of insecticide to people, mosquito repellent, whatever. Have collection points. People who are concerned go spray it on themselves. Of the people that were affected, they didn't spray themselves. 70% of the people who were infected with West Nile did not take any precautionary measures. Why should my child be affected by aerial spraying? Why should I have a rash all over my body and fear that my organic produce that I eat is contaminated and my water is contaminated? And why should I have to stay out inside instead of looking at the stars every night because there's planes crop dusting my freaking house? It's ridiculous. I don't know what to do because I come in here and there's delays and there's things and I look at you guys and I'm trying to express my concern, and I represent so many people who are scared to come in because they are fearful of opposing authority or not going against the grain, or they're misinformed, or they're just little media succulents. I don't understand why these things we're saying and these statistics and everything isn't being taken into very serious consideration. Thank you.
And again, that's the reason we have committee meetings, and we've been in those committee meetings, and we've been taking it all to heart. That's what I'm saying. And I don't know what Rob, but all I'm saying to you is that each year, this community talks about West Nile. And when they do, we don't sit back and just fold our arms. We file a plan. We work with all of the cities as part of the PHAC, the Public Health Advisory Committee, and we try to forge a plan. Everybody knows what the plan is out there. It's on our website. So it's not like we've been doing this in secret. And so we work through those committees. And that's all I was saying, because I know Mr. Day's in my district, and I guess it's probably, but all I'm saying is that we've been doing something. It's only this aerial spraying that all of a sudden this flood. And I understand, I'm opposed to aerial spraying. But I'm still not saying it's not, in terms of part of the last arsenal in our toolbox. But we've always done something. Since West Nile, we have not sat back with our arms folded. We have targeted, hotspot. We've gotten the surveillance. We've gotten the epidemic. We've worked it. And so that's all I'm saying. It's not as though, we have been negligent in terms of our duty. As whether or not you got the information, I don't know. I was just speaking to them because I've been there and every meeting. And annually, we bring this up at the PHAC committee. We file the plan. We listen to all of our cities. We know what they're doing. And it's a work in progress. I mean, I heard things last week with regards to maybe we ought to be changing the pesticide. Nobody's ever said that before. All I'm saying is we work it. This is not a one-time incident. We work it every year, and we work committees. So I invite you to the PI committee. It's public and it's published.
Our next speaker is Mr. Mark Canute.
Thanks for having me. My name is Mr. Mark. My name is Mark Wooten. I am the executive chef and co-owner of a restaurant in East Dallas. I just wanted to talk about food, basically, and insects. and the fact that roughly 35% of the world's food crops depend on insect pollinators, including bees. That contributes $20 billion, actually insect pollination alone produces $20 billion of food crops in America. And that doesn't take into consideration the overhead revenue and taxes when that weaves its way through the industry. If you include indirect products such as milk and beef from cattle fed on alfalfa, which is pollinated by insects, that number jumps to 40 billion. And again, that's just the source. That's just the production of these goods, not the sales, not my sales, not the taxes included, not my revenue. And so my concern is setting, and again, not a precedent, obviously, this has been done before, not aerial spraying at least, but continuing to use dangerous chemicals when there are alternatives. That we hear that so constantly from people like Howard Garrett. And we have alternatives. I'm sure they've been on the table. For some reason they haven't been used, or maybe they haven't been on the table. Who knows? Maybe I'll show up at one of those committees and bring them to the table. But in the future, I think we have to consider other alternatives. There are alternatives. If we're going to spend $500,000, we can find other ways to do it that don't damage the other insects in our environment, don't damage the total biodiversity of our environment, and in return my food production. I buy a lot of local foods. I grow foods in my backyard, or in the garden's backyard. And also I like to have that as an organic garden, which unfortunately wasn't this year. And so all I wanted to say is that when we contribute to this physically and financially, we ought to consider the collateral damage and the financial consequences, especially in a city like Dallas. We spend twice as much eating out in restaurants than New York City, which is the #2 city in America. We spend more than any other city in America eating out, and we have more restaurants per capita. And so that's a direct financial relationship to the state of food in America. State of food costs. We're seeing rising costs all across the board. We continue to see more colony collapse disorder with bees. We're going to see rising prices on cost of goods for this produce that is pollinated by insects. So consider these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our last speaker today is Ms. Janet Reynolds.
Janet Reynolds, 8918 Sandy Andrew Drive. And council and judge, thank you so much for hearing my comments. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to live in this city, in this state, in this nation, and to be able to have my voice heard. I grew up with Westerns. The Westerns would have the cowboys come in, and usually it was the good guy shooting the bad guy, and the bad guy would fall down dead onto the floor, and then the camera would go someplace else, and the death was immediate, and it was easy, and it was sanitary. But I happen to have 2 critical care paramedics in my family, and I know this is not the truth. That is fictional. But what we would be led to believe comes out of planes or hands of raids for hornets or any other thing is something that immediately takes care of what is at hand. And we don't look at the implications and what happens after that time is the long-standing implications of that. You have great data. You have wonderful data that has been shared with you. I can't add anything to that. But I can tell you what has happened with me. I am a teacher. I am a naturalist. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I grow my own food. I'm an organic gardener. I keep bees. My bees were impacted. My gambusia fish were killed with the aerial spraying. We covered our crops. I really can't consider my gardens organic anymore. I have 2 floodlights on my back porch. After the aerial spraying, there were no longer throngs of insects flying around those lights in the evening. It took 2 months for that to come back. And only in October did we really start seeing moths and other creatures flying in those lights again. When before, it was dangerous to try to come out the back door without being bombarded by something that was flying in the evening. So I saw the widespread implication of spraying, result of spraying. It wasn't a sanitary circumstance. I have geckos and anoles in the area, the little native amphibians, and they were coming up dead. I was finding them dead as well. So these sprays are widespread. I myself was here for the last of the aerial spraying, and it took me until mid-September to get over upper respiratory infection. This data is not something that you can track, and so there are scores of people like me that have things like this that have happened to them.
And just let me see, Mr. Thompson, when did we start handing out D, and what year?
Around 2003, 2004, since 1999, yeah.
We've gone to every section except maybe these 3 zip codes. We've gone there handing out D. I'm talking about on the ground ourselves, and you said we could probably use our money better to do that. We've been doing that. We've been doing education seminar at multi-purpose centers, at senior citizens. All I'm saying to you is that, you know, we're not, I guess the only reason if it appears as though we're frustrated, we're not turned a blind ear. And when we hear something, we try to incorporate that. And one thing I've heard is maybe you need to change the chemical. That's fine. I'm not an epidemiologist scientist. But at the same time, I just want you to understand we're not turning a deaf ear to when you make commentary. Okay?
With that, that is our final speaker. It is now approximately 10 after 12. We'll convene in a closed session, and as soon as we'll convene in there in 5 minutes, because we need to gather up our 2 commissioners who did the press conference. So the closed session will begin at 12:15. The court is now recessed. Its closed session is authorized by Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code